Chapter 51. The ion beam hit the lizard man's body at high speed, burning a large wound immediately. The lizard man blocked with his hands in pain and roared. Looking at the embarrassed lizard man, Jin Bing's eyes were cold. He ignored the man in sunglasses and others who were shivering in the corner. He took out his crutch and fired a spiked chain from it. Phew! The chain fired from the ordinary cane was so powerful that it easily pierced the lizard man's chest. Oh! The lizard man roared in pain, gripped the ground with his feet, and pounced towards the many armed bodyguards in front of him. The palms were as strong as palm leaf fans and smashed down several times. The bodyguards were beaten into a bloody mess before they even had time to react. Then, he looked at Kingpin who was pulling the chain in the distance. He rushed over with red eyes. Kingpin reacted quickly and punched the lizard man bang. The lizardman who was still in the air was immediately knocked away. I have to say that Kingpin's power is really terrifying. The man in sunglasses and others couldn't help but shudder, but they finally breathed a sigh of relief. It seems that this monster is not invincible. However, just when they relaxed for a second, the lizardman attacked Kingpin again. The man and the monster fought each other like this. Kingpin had a ferocious expression on his face and couldn't help but yell, "Why did you come to me, you monster? Go find Osborn." Unexpectedly, the lizard man actually spoke up to refute. "Don't think I don't know that Osborn Industries has long been yours. If you hadn't asked him to withdraw his investment, how could I become like this? Jin Bing, I'm looking for you. Damn it." After hearing what the lizard man said, Kingpin realized that the other party was not chasing Osborn at all. "It's directed at me. I didn't expect that this monster still had its own sanity." Seeing his power being suppressed by the lizardman, Jin Bing became more and more anxious. Why haven't the rhino people come yet? These rubbish. These are none other than the super ability people under his command. As if in response to his shout, with a loud bang, a man in a rhino battlesuit broke through the wall. And without slowing down, it directly crashed into the lizardman who was fighting with Kingpin. Boom! The rhino man really has the impact force of a rhino, and when combined with his rhino battlesuit, he is even more terrifying. Even though the lizardman's power was terrifying enough, it was like a piece of paper when hit by the Rin-O-Man. All the bones in the body were broken and stuck in the wall. "Boss, I'm late." The rhino turned around and said to Kingpin, who was still in shock. Jin Bing said with a grim look, "Next time it's this late, I will make you lose all this power." Rhino Man's power was not innate, but was given to him by Kingpin. In addition to being a philanthropist and a wealthy man, Jin Bing is also the original underworld emperor. He is also the behind-the-scenes boss of a scientific research institution. Having dominated New York for so long, his research institute has also developed many unimaginable technologies. Including the previous Scorpion battlesuit and the Lizardman's battlesuit, they are all products of his research institute. At the same time, he also developed a lot of serums and potions for strengthening the body. Although he himself disdains these injections, he chooses to inject his subordinates with unique physical qualities. The Scorpion that was crippled by the Lizard Man and Lun, and the Rhino Man, both received injections. It's just that everyone has a different focus. The Rhino is obviously stronger, while the Scorpion focuses more on poison and dexterity. But it doesn't work at all in front of the Lizardman. Boom! At this moment, the Lizardman that was stuck in the wall broke free and his bones recovered rapidly. Then, his body seemed to grow bigger again, and he stepped on the floor and pounced towards the Rhino Man. The ground was rubbed with a rumbling sound. "Break him to pieces!" Jin Bing gave orders to the Rhino Man in a panic. He hated this lizard monster now. Not only did it disrupt my transaction, but it also made me so embarrassed. Even if the fight lasted a while longer, he was not afraid. He even didn't think he could defeat the lizard man. But this is really embarrassing. These Russian gangsters are still here, although they look even more miserable than himself. The Rhino Man immediately crashed into him. Then he fought with the Lizardman again. Boom! This time the Rhino Man was slapped away. He charged straight towards the Russian gangsters. No! The man in sunglasses pushed his men away and hid aside. With a bang, several men were smashed into meat paste by the Rhino Man. However, the Rhino Man also reacted quickly, and hurriedly stood up and fought with the Lizard Man again. The monument of time in his hand also flew out due to the collision with the Rhino Man. Just flew out of the French window. No! Kingpin and the man in sunglasses shouted at the same time that if the time stone fell from more than 100 floors, it would most likely be damaged. In that case, eternal life would be gone. However, just when they thought the monument of time had fallen from the building, a figure slowly floated up outside the window, holding the monument of time in his hand. Chapter 52. The person who came was Lun. But at the moment Lun covered her face and no one could recognize her. I don't care who you are, you can't move that thing. Seeing Lun floating in the air, Jin Bing said with a bad look on his face. He is very disgusted with these super ability people. In addition to jealousy, I also find it very troublesome. Especially this person, he can actually fly. However, with his status, how could he easily give in to others, so his attitude remained tough. In response, Lun sneered, Jin Bing, you can't even protect yourself, and you still want to take care of such an unreliable thing. Young man, you should know that even if you are a super ability person, it is not a wise choice to go against me. Jin ignored Lun's teasing and spoke with a cold face. The man in sunglasses who was originally crawling on the ground in fear also took out a special pistol. Aiming at Lun, he threatened with a ferocious look, put down that box, or you will die miserably. At the same time, Jin Bing also took out his cane and pointed it at Lun. His cane looks ordinary, but it is a product of high technology. For example, it can release ion rays, bullets, and poisonous gas. Put it down quickly, I will only count to 3. The man in sunglasses said arrogantly. Then he began to count, 3. But before he could even utter a word, it was blown away by a gust of wind. The body was also embedded directly into the wall. At the same time, accompanied by a chill, he was frozen inside. Looking at Lun again, her lips just moved slightly. What Lun just used was the Kryptonian super breath. Even the power of the ice fruit was not used. The reason is that the Kryptonian body's super breath can also blow out cold air. Seeing this scene, Jin Bing's eyes twitched several times. He even forgot about the battle between the Rhino Man and the Lizard Man next to him. He had seen powerful people with super abilities, but this was the first time he had seen one as powerful as this. Especially feeling it from such a close distance. At the moment, Lun exuded an extremely terrifying and extremely strong sense of oppression. Jin Bing thought that he was very powerful, but facing this masked young man was like a single boat facing the sea. Did you know that the person you just killed was the younger brother of Vladimir, the leader of the Russian mafia? Sweat was already oozing out of Jin Bing's forehead, but he was still delaying time. He has quietly pressed a pager. The person on the other side was the bodyguard he had always hired, Bullseye. If the Bullseye comes, even if the opponent can fly and blow cold air, his projection ability can definitely give the opponent a headache. However, Lun just nodded slightly and said, oh. So what? You. After hearing Lun's response, Jin Bing was speechless and didn't know how to respond. Yeah, so what? It can be seen that the person in front of me definitely has more than just this little ability. Faced with increasingly severe pressure, Jin Bing's body began to tremble unconsciously. He didn't know why he had such a terrifying aura, and it could even be released directly outwards. Could this also be an ability? However, he became anxious when he thought about how he, as the underground emperor, was forced into this state. Snap! Jin Bing twisted the cane in his hand and a beam of ion beam shot towards Lun opposite him. Lun snorted coldly at this. He had been watching the other party's actions. He didn't even try to dodge and just took on this attack. Apart from the torn clothes, there was no damage. Now, Kingpin became even more panicked and constantly twisted his crutches. Beams of light shot towards Lun. However, the result is still the same. If you have the guts, fight me. Finally, facing Lun's invisible pressure, Jin Bing's fleshy face became distorted. In the past, I controlled everything, and if I had to oppress others, I would oppress them myself. I have never been treated like this. The most annoying thing is that the other party looks at me like an ant. It was just like how he felt about others before. This feeling simply drove him crazy. Looking at this roaring boss, Lun had a calm expression and slowly floated into the building. The battle on the other side was about to stop, and the Rhino had the upper hand. Definitely, this is because the Lizardman had just experienced a big battle with the Scorpion and was beaten up by Lun. This battle is inherently unequal. But the Lizardman was still able to fight with the powerful Rin-Oman for such a long time, which is enough to show the opponent's strength. Boom! With a loud noise, the lizardman broke through another piece of glass and fell towards the bottom of the building. On this side, the Rhino Man also noticed the boss's situation and protected him. "Boss, please leave first and let me smash him to pieces." Just as Kingpin was about to nod, two figures walked in from behind him. One of them was wearing a special yellow combat suit and had two special devices on his arms. Another one had a bullseye painted on its head. These two are Kingpin's other two men, Horror and Bullseye. "Capture him and give him to Eris to use him to study the serum." Jin Bing said something grimly and walked out. Chapter 53. Superior. Bullseye spoke in a cold voice, and then spat out thin needles from his mouth. Those who didn't know would think he was performing magic tricks, as he could actually hide such a hidden weapon in his mouth. The moment it was spit out, a series of sonic booms occurred. The speed of the shot was obviously no slower than that of a bullet. "Haha, not bad." Looking at the thin needles getting closer and closer to him, Lun couldn't help but sigh. It is said that Bullseye's projection ability has reached the pinnacle, and now it seems to be somewhat true. At the same time, the Horror next to him also released shockwaves from his fists at the right time. Faced with two terrifying attacks, Lun didn't even try to dodge and walked slowly towards the two of them. Ding-tock. Several sounds of metal colliding were heard, and the needles that attacked the crown of the head, eyes, heart, and other vital parts hit Lun's body as if they were hitting steel. As for the terrifying shockwave, when it hit Lun it was like mud flowing into the sea, and it all disappeared. How is this possible? Both Bullseye and the other man widened their eyes in disbelief. Bullseye is also a user of super abilities, but his super ability is projection. Therefore, even if a toothpick is spit out from 100 meters away, it is enough to open a person's crown. What's more, the distance was less than 10 meters, the force was exerted to the extreme, and steel needles were used. He saw clearly that one of them pierced Lun's pupil directly. However, the steel needle broke into pieces, but the pupil was not hurt at all. Is this not a human being? Similarly, the terrifying shockwave was also very terrifying. Although he did not use the maximum power, it was enough to smash a truck into pieces. But it seemed like I couldn't even tickle Lun. Roar. However, just when they were about to attack again, a roar was heard. Then, a huge amount of figure rushed towards Lun. "I'll hit you to death." Bang. The rhino was very fast and crashed straight into Lun's body. However, to his shock, he felt as if he had hit a mountain. No, it's a mountain of steel. Because he can crash into even a mountain. However, it didn't move at all when it hit Lun. "Big guy, I'm really annoyed by the way you look." Lun stretched out his hand slightly, and a dark branch emerged from the ground. Then it pierced through the Rhino Man's battle suit and went straight into his body. Roar. The Rhino Man immediately screamed, and then under the bullseye and horrified gaze, the Rhino Man turned into a tree. Real vegetative rhinoceros. This is naturally because the wood release branches covered with armament color domineering are constantly growing branches on its body. Everything happened very quickly. After the two men's attacks failed, the Rhino Man followed up with an attack. Then it turned into a tree in less than a second, and Bullseye and Thriller didn't even have time to react. Bullseye and Horror looked at each other and both had an idea. Escape. Then he wanted to jump off the building. They all have devices on them that can ensure they can save themselves before landing. So, as long as they jumped off the building, they would be able to escape. Want to leave? But, how could Lun let them leave? The aura on his body was released, and a vast force of oppression spread out. The two men's legs weakened and they were about to faint. At the critical moment, Bullseye's last bit of fighting instinct made him decisively push his companion out in horror. I mentioned before that his projection ability is terrifying. Even a casually thrown piece of paper can chop off a person's head. The horror thrown out was like a cannonball, hitting Lun directly. Bullseye, you deserve to die. In his last moments, Thriller regained consciousness and realized what Bullseye had done to him. Bang! With a loud bang, the horror hit Lun. Lun originally planned to use thermal vision to cut them off, but he didn't expect Bullseye to be so decisive. Caught off guard, he was hit head-on by the horror. Although Lun's original Kryptonian body has been developed to less than 1,000th, it has also reached the level of the body of steel. The horrifying body was smashed into a pool of minced meat under the huge amounts of force. Looking to the side, Bullseye had already left. Lun can easily catch up with Bullseye, but finds it boring, so he activates the ice fruit. After the body turned into half-element, all the bloodstains were cleaned up by the cold mist, and even the clothes on his body were free of any bloodstains. Because he has mastered too many skills, the development of the ice fruit can only be semi-elemental, and there is no second awakening yet. Looking at the messy Fisk building, Lun ignored it. He didn't want to kill Jinbing yet, because the system just gave a prompt that 2 more simulated worlds had been added. So, Jinbing is a good leak. Since he poses no threat to me anyway, I might as well get more simulation opportunities on him. So, he flew away from the building. Chapter 54. Outside. The police have surrounded the Fisk building. After all, there is a lot of noise here. But it's just a show. After all, even the mayor of New York doesn't dare to offend Kingpin, and the police officers did this just to reassure the public. However, it can be said that Jinbing suffered heavy losses this time. He lost 3 of his subordinates, Scorpion, Rhino, and Horror. Bullseye disappeared again. At the same time, the desired monument of time was also taken away by Lun. Jinbing, who was in a secret room, looked extremely unhappy and said to a man sitting in a high-tech wheelchair, "Alistair, find out the identity of this man for me, and then inform the Russian mafia." "Yes, boss." The man named Arist nodded and kept pressing the buttons on the operating table. Soon, Lun's figure, pupils, etc. overlapped with the masked appearance just now. "Boss, this man is Lun who destroyed the hand." "It's him indeed." In fact, Jinbing also had some guesses after seeing Lun, but after all, he didn't see her face, so he couldn't be sure. Now that it has been confirmed, he can let the Russian mafia take action. It doesn't matter even if the other party can't kill him. Then, as if he had thought of something, he said, "The special robot you made with those metals last time should be almost successful, right?" Arist was stunned, then nodded quickly and said, "Yes, boss, those adamantiums have created 3 high-tech robots. Even if we face someone with super abilities, we can still deal with them. We just lack some key ingredients." "What main ingredient?" Jinbing asked subconsciously. "It's an energy source that can provide unlimited power. This thing is actually very easy to find, but we just can't get it. There is nothing in the world that I, Jinbing, cannot obtain. Tell me, where can I find such energy?" Jinbing spoke with an arrogant look on his face, showing some disdain for his men's words. Arist asked with certainty, "Boss, are you sure you want to get this thing?" "Definitely, did I say anything empty?" Jinbing's face immediately darkened. "No, no, no." Alistair waved his hands hastily, obviously extremely afraid of the other party. "This thing is only owned by the Stark Group. It's the arc reactor on Tony Stark's chest." At this point, Jinbing was silent for several seconds, and finally spoke slowly, "It's actually this thing." It can be seen that he is also a little afraid of the Stark Group. But soon his eyes lit up and he said, "But I think we can find a way." "Boss, what do you mean?" Arist obviously didn't understand Jinbing's thoughts. King did not explain, but ordered, "Use your utmost strength to find the people that Tony Stark's father Howard Stark has contacted. Especially for the arc reactor project, does he have any partners?" Kingpin was also a big shot who debuted in the previous world, so he naturally recognized Howard Stark. He also remembered seeing Howard Stark's report on the reactor. This means that the arc reactor in Tony Stark's hand is the technology developed by his father at that time. He just carried it forward. Ever since Tony Stark sent Obadiah Stane, the former second-in-command of the Stark Group, to prison, it is well known that Iron Man is the genius Tony Stark. There are many people who covet the arc reactor technology in his hands. Including the Kingpin, apparently. However, Kingpin is a man of extremely high intelligence, and he was able to think of finding a breakthrough from Tony's father Howard. "Boss, I found it." Soon, Arista, according to Kingpin's orders, looked for people who were related to Howard Stark's research on the arc reactor project. After a lot of computer tricks, a Russian named Anton Vanko was found. "Boss, although there is very little information about this person, it can be seen that he participated in the arc reactor project. Moreover, he was an important colleague of Howard, but later he seemed to have committed a crime and was deported." Arist introduced all the information about this man named Anton Vanko to Jinbing. But Jinbing had already revealed a surprised smile and said, "Try every possible way to contact this person." "Okay boss." He probably had guessed that this man named Anton Vanko must be an important person who studied the arc reactor back then. But later, most likely, he was sent back because he wanted to use this technology for personal gain. This also means that the other party definitely has the technology to release the reactor, which would be perfect. Unconsciously, I was thinking angrily in my heart, Lun, you are so powerful, so what? I also have a way to get rid of you. You took my monument of time, not only must you return it, but you must also pay with your life. Then he took out his phone and dialed a number. Vladimir, I'm so sorry, your brother was killed just now. Who is it? Tell me his address, I will turn his bones into ashes. Chapter 55. Over New York. Lun grabbed two figures, one on the left and one on the right. On one side is Spider-Man Peter Parker wearing spider battlesuit, and on the other side is the extremely embarrassed Lizard Man. That's right, the Lizardman didn't fall under the building and break into pieces. But he survived under Peter's cobweb. Originally Lun wanted to kill the Lizard Man, but then he thought that Kurt Connors, who became a Lizard Man in the comics, seemed to have become smarter. A lot of unimaginable technologies have been developed. Including the light that was developed later, it can even create a vampire ancestor. That's Dr. Proxima Midnight, Morbius. Therefore, Lun decided to keep Kurt Connors so that he could study the Monument of Time. At the moment, Lun was carrying a hexagonal iron box behind him. Inside is the Monument of Time. Having watched the anime, he knew that the Monument of Time did contain the secret of rejuvenation and even immortality. Although he doesn't need rejuvenation now, he doesn't necessarily need immortality. Because, in the future simulation world, it is very likely that fantasy and fairy tale worlds will appear. By then, it would be easy to achieve eternal life if you acquire a powerful technique. However, he was very interested in the secrets of this thing, and he didn't know whether it could improve the physical strength of a transcendent. Now he still needs to improve his physical strength as soon as possible. Developing the original Kryptonian body faster would allow him to destroy Homelander sooner. However, this matter is not far away. Lun, could you please not be so rude every time? I can bring Dr. Connors back to the Institute by myself. Peter, who was sandwiched on the right by Lun, complained somewhat dissatisfiedly. In his current state, he always felt like he was a kid and was beaten by Uncle Ben for doing something wrong. Shut up, if you hadn't insisted on coming here, so many things wouldn't have happened. You should be able to find Connor's antidote soon. After you cure him, tell him everything. And give him this Monument of Time to study, and make sure to find out the secret of the energy inside it. While Lun was talking to Peter, they had already arrived at Connors's research institute. Is this Monument of Time really as mysterious as the legend says? Can it give you eternal life? Peter, who finally felt the ground, supported Connors, who was thrown unconscious by Lun, and said with some doubt. Lun shook her head and said, I don't know if it's true or not, but if we can unlock the secret, it should be able to enhance the super ability. Is this true? Can that allow me to defeat Thanos? Lun had already informed Peter about Thanos' situation, and it was irreversible anyway. Even if you reveal the plot, the overall storyline cannot be changed. Therefore, Peter and Sky both know the plot of the future Avengers Alliance 4. Learned about infinite gems and the 5 years of extinction. They are not opposed to becoming stronger, and even want to become stronger faster so as to deal with future big villains. Well, it all depends on what secrets the energy contained in the Monument of Time holds. Peter had no choice but to suppress his doubts. After helping Connors to the research institute, he began to study the antidote for the Lizardman. Lun stayed for a while to prevent the Lizardman from suddenly waking up and launching a surprise attack. Soon, after a few hours, Peter finally developed an antidote. After injecting the blue potion into the Lizardman's body, the Lizardman's skin slowly faded away, and the right hand that had grown out fell off. Just like shedding his skin, the Lizardman turned back into Kurt Connors. Peter, what's wrong with me? Why are you here? As soon as the Lizardman woke up, he looked around with a puzzled expression. He was beaten half to death by the Rhino Man and had completely forgotten what had happened before. Peter sighed and informed Connors of what happened a few hours ago. Connors became more and more frightened as he listened, and finally knelt on the ground in pain. I actually did such a wrong thing. Peter, take me to the police station, I want to turn myself in. Obviously, Connors had regained his sanity and his original moral reason at this time. You caused no casualties, and you defeated one of Kingpin's men. Instead, it can be regarded as getting rid of harm to the people. Now no one knows that you are a lizard man. Besides, do you really want to waste your talents in prison? Lun walked slowly in front of him and spoke slowly. Connors raised his red eyes and asked weakly, "Who are you?" "I'm Peter's classmate, and we rescued you." Lun didn't explain much, but Connors had already guessed something. This person is definitely not an ordinary person, as he was able to save himself in such a dangerous situation. "What are you up to?" He also realized immediately that the other party wanted him to do something. Otherwise, he would either be dead or already in prison, and he would not be sent back here and be restored. "You can still do what you want, but you have to study this stone tablet carefully." Lun threw the monument of time to Kurt Connors and spoke. Connors was stunned, and then he felt the extraordinary nature of this stone tablet, and the pain gradually subsided. There was a hint of desire to explore in his eyes. Chapter 56. It was already evening when we left Connors' institute. Finally Connors agreed to study the steel, since it might very well restore him to full health. Although Peter developed an antidote for lizard people, that antidote can only eradicate the early stages of lizard transformation in people. And pathogens like Connors can obviously only be controlled for a while. Therefore, Connors will still become the lizard man, but like the Hulk, he needs to be emotionally stimulated. This stone tablet is said to come from the ancient Starks, a nation that worships strength and courage. There is a finals competition every 10 years. The competition is about who can reach the top of the pyramids first. The victor will be illuminated by the Monument of Time, thus regaining his youth and rejuvenation. This shows that the Monument of Time has the power to change the nature of the human body. Turning the lizard man back into a normal human was simply the smallest thing possible. Connors would naturally not refuse. Not long after, Lun returned to the villa. As soon as I opened the door, I smelled the wonderful aroma of food. "Lun, you're back. The food will be ready soon. Go wash your hands and get ready to eat." After Lun changed into slippers and entered the villa hall, Sky, wearing a beautiful cartoon apron, came over. Then, a slim figure walked out from behind her. She was also wearing an apron of another color, had golden hair and a fair face. At the moment she was holding a dish of braised pork trotter in her hand. "This is Gwen Stacy. Lun, I'm here as a guest, too. You won't be unwelcome, will you?" When Gwen saw Lun coming back, she also smiled and couldn't help but joked. Lun's mouth corners slightly raised, very sunny, said, "How could it be? The school beauty came to my house as a guest. I am definitely very happy." Upon hearing this, Gwen immediately said in surprise, "I didn't expect you to be so good at talking. I thought you were like a piece of wood." "Definitely not. Don't compare me with Peter." Lun immediately betrayed Peter and joked. "What's wrong, Lun? You can't compare anything with me." As soon as Lun finished speaking, the door opened again and Peter Parker walked in from outside. Obviously, he also changed his clothes from home. "It's okay, I just wanted to say that I'm not as handsome as you," Lun said with a smile. "That's right, I didn't expect that you, Lun, have such good vision. You are worthy of being my good brother. Look." When Peter heard Lun praising him, he immediately began to breathe heavily, but he stopped halfway through his words. He thought he saw a familiar figure. Gee Gwen, what a coincidence, I didn't expect you to be here." Peter, who was originally normal, suddenly became a little stuttering, and his face gradually turned red. "Hello, Peter. I heard that there was an accident in the lab where you were doing your internship. Are you not hurt?" Gwen greeted him gracefully, and thinking of the news she saw today, she asked in a concerned way like a friend. Peter waved his hands hastily, No, the news is exaggerating. You know, they are all trying to gain ratings." Although Peter's heart was beating fast due to nervousness, he still knew to keep the secret. After all, only a few people know that the lizard man is Dr. Connors. "Oh, I'm glad you're okay." Gwen nodded. "Well, since Peter is here, let's eat together. I've cooked several dishes anyway." Sky took off her apron and invited him. Peter cheered immediately, Great. Sky's cooking skills are better than those of a 5-star hotel." Looking at Peter, who seemed like a child who never grew up, Lun found it a little funny. How did this guy become Spider-Man? Maybe because of Gwen's arrival, Sky cooked 8 Hyuxia dishes. Sky's cooking skills are now very good, and even Gwen, who rarely eats Hyuxia food, doesn't care about her image and eats it with relish. During this time, Sky talked endlessly to Lun about his experiences with Gwen that day. They first went to see the biological exhibition. Although the chairman did not attend the meeting, the novel species in the exhibition were eye-opening. At this point Lun and Peter looked at each other, because they knew where Chairman Norman Osborn had gone. Then, Sky revealed another important piece of information, that Gwen was accidentally bitten by a spider. But fortunately, I went to the hospital for a checkup and found that nothing was serious, so I felt relieved. This scared Peter, and he asked Gwen carefully several times if there was anything wrong. I didn't feel relieved until I was sure that Gwen was okay. However, Lun had some thoughts in his mind. Gwen Stacy did become Spider-Man in a certain universe. Because his suit is designed in white and black, he is called Spider-Man. There shouldn't be such a coincidence. This is the main universe. Although there are integrations from other universes, Gwen should not become the Spider-Man of the underworld. However, Lun didn't dare to be too sure. Anyway, she would know the result in a few days. If Gwen mutates, it shouldn't take long. However, while they were chatting and eating dinner, Lun and Peter were both startled. Obviously, both observation haki and spider telepathy have been reflected. Chapter 57. In an instant, Lun's figure disappeared from the spot. Peter also rushed out of the hall as fast as he could and quickly changed into his spider battlesuit. On the roof of a building a few hundred meters away, a man holding a Barrett sniper rifle was staring at Lun's villa. Through the sight, you can clearly see what's going on inside. "Boss, I'm already in position." The man had scars all over his face and a ferocious expression. He asked into the phone in his hand. A reply came quickly from the other side: "Kill everyone around him, break his arms and legs." The man gave a cruel smile and said, "Yes, boss." Next, pull the trigger. However, the next second, he felt a black screen before his eyes. When he looked up, he saw a figure standing in front of him, just blocking his sight. "Who are you?" The man was suddenly shocked because he was the only one here. How did this person appear here? At this moment, when he saw the man's face clearly, his eyes widened. Isn't this the assassination target who was just in the villa? Crack! By the time he figured it out, it was too late because his neck was broken. Looking at the cell phone in this guy's hand, Lun picked it up with a slightly cold look in his eyes. "Hey, how's Bart?" "I didn't hear any gunshots." There was a burst of incomprehensible Russian speech coming from the other side. Lun had studied it briefly, so he knew a little about the language. Then he spoke slowly in American language, "Vladimir, right? I hope you don't run away." After saying that, he threw the phone to the ground. Lun had no intention of targeting the Russian gangsters, and he killed the man in sunglasses only out of defense. But I didn't expect these guys to be so shameless and want to attack the people around me. He would never allow such a thing to happen. He didn't like to involve innocent people, and the Russian mafia touched his bottom line. "Hey, who are you and where is Bart?" The middle-aged man's voice could still be heard from the broken phone, but Lun had disappeared long ago. At this time, Peter, wearing a spider battlesuit, rushed here and shook his head when he saw the miserable state of the man on the ground. Then he also picked up the phone and said to the other end, "Although I don't know who you are, but if you still want to live, you'd better run away now, even though it seems too late." After saying that, Peter threw it away and headed towards Hell's Kitchen. Although he was not too worried about Lun getting hurt, he had to keep up if something unexpected happened. Russian Mafia Headquarters Building. Vladimir's face looked extremely ugly. He didn't expect that he would be used as a robber by Jinbing. From the phone call just now, he knew that his men had failed in the assassination attempt on Lun and had angered the other party. Now the other party has arrived. He knew Lun had a super ability, but he didn't expect it to be so powerful. It can actually transfer instantly. Inside the building, there were more than 3,000 Russian gang members, all armed with heavy machine guns, and some even with high explosive grenades and other weapons. At the same time, a secret facility inside the building has been opened. There were several sharp missiles more than 1 meter long inside. If you still can't deal with Lun in the end, use this armor-piercing missile. So what if he has super abilities? Can he withstand the power of missiles? At the moment Vladimir was already walking towards the basement under the protection of his men. There is his private jet. able to fly directly out of the ground. Da-da-da, boom boom. At the moment, the sound of fighting could be heard in the building. But there were more screams. Vladimir got on the plane even more anxiously. It quickly flew out of the ground and took off into the sky. Boss, we can't hold on any longer. He seems to be able to control plants. Soon he received a call from his subordinates on the plane, but the screams from the other end became more and more frequent. Vladimir was equally terrified. He knew that he had really picked on the wrong person. If I had known earlier, I wouldn't have been blinded by hatred and gotten involved with Lun. Finally, he gritted his teeth and said, "Fire the armor-piercing missiles." Yes. On the other side, after Lun arrived at the Russian gangster building, he was attacked by various guns and bombs. But these were just drizzle to him. At the moment, he already had bones of steel, and he didn't even need to cover up his armament haki to withstand these things. Then, a terrifying dark red lightning was released from his body. The sky seemed to change color at this moment. The Russian gangsters who were more than 10 meters away were shocked to death with foam at the mouth. Their brains were completely shattered by the domineering aura. However, Lun's domineering color currently only covers a range of 15 meters. Then, facing a kind of fire suppression, he stretched out his palm, and sharp branches suddenly emerged from the ground of the building. The sound of puffing was heard continuously, and these Russian gang members were pierced through the body like tofu. Fire armor-piercing missiles. At this moment, someone shouted and the device on the wall inside the building made a sound. Several armor-piercing missiles were fired directly at Lun. Chapter 58. The Russian gangsters, without caring whether they had any companions, directly launched armor-piercing missiles. The missile had a long tail flame, burning and distorting the air, like a roaring beast. The temperature released by such a missile alone is enough to burn a person to ashes without leaving any trace. However, Lun didn't even try to hide. The palm was slightly extended, and thick branches emerged from the ground. Mokuton, wooden barrier. Huge amounts of explosions reduced 3 floors to rubble. All the gun-wielding Russian gangsters died in the explosion. Even those gangsters who had managed to survive were blown to pieces. It can be seen from this that although the power of these missiles is not that terrifying, they are still terrifyingly powerful. However, none of this matters. They are more concerned about the results of the attacks of these missiles. However, after the smoke cleared, 4 huge and thick wooden walls appeared in the center of the first floor. Then, in the extremely surprised eyes of the gangsters on the 3rd floor who were lucky enough not to die, the wooden wall disappeared, revealing Lun inside, intact. Monster! This was the thought of all the Russian gang members who saw this scene. But their thoughts could only stop here. After Lun's figure appeared, lines spread across the entire building. Where is the cold coming from at this time? Why is it so cold? No, I'm frozen. Gosh, run! This cold air cannot be touched. By the time many Russian gang members realized that this cold air could instantly freeze people into ice sculptures, it was already too late. The cold air was like a flood, covering the entire building in an instant. Even those people hiding behind and controlling the missiles had no time to escape and were turned into ice sculptures. Then, Lun waved his hand. The cold suddenly became intense, and all the ice sculptures shattered. At this moment, the 2,000 to 3,000 Russian gang members were all reduced to ashes. In the sky, Vladimir's body was constantly shaking. He kept yelling to the pilot, "Speed up, go as fast as you can." After so many years as a gangster, he was shocked when he saw Lun kill his men with just his aura. I already knew that I had really offended the wrong person this time. He really shouldn't have believed Jinbing's lies and shouldn't have been blinded by hatred. If he had known that the other party was so terrifying, he would even have taken the initiative to go to his house and apologize. But it's too late now. I just hope to escape from here quickly and hide. Anyway, he has bought estates in other parts of the world. Boss, this is already the fastest speed. If we speed up any further, the engine won't be able to handle it and it will easily explode. The pilot was obviously very scared of the other party and quickly explained. Waste. Vladimir's face looked extremely ugly. However, the scene that shocked him finally arrived. Lun was seen moving side by side with the plane at the moment, and when Vladimir looked over, he also turned his head. The 2 pairs of eyes looked at each other from a distance. Hurry up and launch the missiles to kill him. Vladimir seemed to have completely exploded, and ordered the 2 drivers like crazy. It's the boss. The driver was also frightened by Lun and broke out in a cold sweat, pressing the button without any hesitation. 2 missiles, smaller than those fired from the building, were directed towards Lun in flight in the distance. However, although these 2 missiles are small in size, their power is even greater than those that hit the building. After all, this was a Stark Industries missile that Vladimir had gotten from somewhere. The ones he fired before were just ordinary armor-piercing bullets. In addition to its armor-piercing power, it cannot even blow up a building. These 2 are different because they contain mushroom seeds. This is also the horror of Stark's weapons. Just an ordinary missile can have this ability. Definitely, after that incident, Tony Stark closed the weapons department a long time ago. The group's development focus is placed on new energy. These missiles are out of print. Boom! Accompanied by 2 huge amounts of explosions. Huge amounts of mushroom clouds appeared in the distant sky. Hehe, so what if a person with a super ability can break anything with martial arts? Looking at Lun, who was engulfed in smoke and fire behind, Vladimir laughed loudly. I feel indescribably relieved. Oh, is it really that scary? But just as he finished speaking, a strange voice rang in his ears. Vladimir was so frightened that he almost stood up on the plane. He turned back blankly, his face covered in cold sweat. Then, I saw Lun's harmless face. Lun didn't know when she had already entered the plane. At the moment, the other person's smile looked like a demon ready to devour someone in his eyes. You. Vladimir was so frightened that he could not speak, his heart was filled with the fear of death. You want to ask me how I got in, right? Lun still smiled. It's because the glass of the plane is too fragile. After saying that, Lun pointed to the glass next to him, where there was a small hole. It turned out that at some point, Lun fired a kunai and then used Flying Thor to teleport into the plane. Chapter 59. The kunai was made by Lun using wood release, and the Flying Thor technique was engraved on it. Naturally, it can be easily teleported into the plane. Lun was already inside the plane before the missile exploded. Even saw Vladimir's crazy look. Let me go, and I'll give you all my property. Vladimir now had no other emotion except despair. I can only think of ways to save my own life. In his mind, no one would turn a blind eye to huge wealth. How much do you have? Lun looked very curious. When Vladimir heard Lun ask this, a glimmer of hope immediately appeared in his eyes. The other party's behavior most likely means that there is room for discussion on this matter. All my assets, including the money in my account and fixed assets, are about 3 billion. Besides, some of my mistresses have a lot more, about 1 billion or so. I can tell you all their accounts. Vladimir did not hold back at all and told out a series of accounts like pouring beans. This surprised Lun, but who wouldn't take the money? What's more, this money was ill-gotten gains. There is no guilt in using it. Although Vladimir only mentioned these accounts verbally and they might not be true or false, Lun didn't care. Sky alone is enough to transfer all the property into his own account. This includes fixed assets that can also be sold off as soon as possible. I've told you all this, Mr. Lun, please let me go. The sweat on Vladimir's face almost looked like it had been rained on. Regardless of whether he was on a plane or not, he unbuckled his seatbelt and kowtowed to Lun, begging for mercy. All right. Lun still looked at the other person with a sunny smile. Vladimir's heart skipped a beat. He knew very well that Lun had never intended to let him go. The eyes gradually became crazy and the expression gradually became distorted. You liar, I'm going to kill you. After saying that, he took out a high-precision Uzi submachine gun from somewhere and pulled the trigger towards Lun's face. In fact, he had wanted this scene from the beginning. Regardless of whether the other party lets him go or not, he will kill the other party when the other party is relaxed. He doesn't want to give away all his assets. The muzzle of the gun was less than 20 centimeters away from Lun, shooting madly at his head. However, the bullets were like facing a metal statue, like beans, constantly falling to the ground. After a magazine of bullets was fired, the black on Lun's face gradually faded away and returned to its original appearance. Vladimir, who had no bullets, was still frantically pressing the trigger and making crazy noises. At this moment, he just felt that his neck was being held. When he regained consciousness, he saw Lun's devilish eyes. Go around. This time, before he could finish his words, his neck was broken by Lun. Until his death, there was still fear on Vladimir's face. Let us go, we were forced, we surrender. The two flight crew members who had just seen the entire scene were so frightened that their bodies were constantly shaking and they stammered for mercy. However, Lun had no mercy on these guys who assisted the evil. With a clap of his hands, an invisible force burst out, smashing the two men's heads. A wooden kunai engraved with the flying Thor technique was thrown, and the next second Lun appeared 100 meters away from the plane. He threw a punch casually. The plane was hit by a terrifying energy force and exploded. Then, he twisted his body and flew back in the direction he came from. Vladimir was courting death. He actually dared to lie to Lun, who had super hearing. You can tell just by listening to the other person's heartbeat. The Kryptonian body is not just for show. Not long after, Lun returned to the building. This time, Lun did not detonate the building. After all, it's not a good idea to always prevent big fires like this. At the moment the place was already full of police officers. Spider-Man Peter was found on a rooftop. Lun, you've made a big noise again. Peter looked not surprised at all. Lun nodded and said, they provoked me first, otherwise, I wouldn't have taken action against them. Go back first, otherwise Vladimir's assets will be frozen. You want Sky to do something bad again. How can this be called a bad thing? This is called a gentleman loves money, but he gets it in a proper way. Lun stretched out a vine from her hand, wrapped it around Peter, and then carried him away. In fact, Lun had already guessed everything that happened today. The mastermind behind this incident must be Jinbing. Vladimir was just used as a robber. And Jinbing must be plotting something against me behind the scenes. But, what can we do? In the face of powerful strength, all conspiracies and tricks are nothing. He was curious about what Jinbing would do next. P.S. If you have flower votes, please vote. This data is really ugly. Even if the number of flowers reaches 10,000, it will be fine. Thank you. Chapter 60. When I returned to the villa, I saw Sky and Gwen, both of whom looked worried. Definitely, their worried eyes were all on Lun. Peter was like air and was ignored. Lun, are you okay? The two girls asked in unison. This made Peter feel like he was dying of drought. Lun didn't care and said, I'm fine, Sky, transfer all of Vladimir's assets out. Oh, I see. Sky simply nodded, then took the computer over and started working on it. With her hacking ability, Vladimir's property would all be gone in an hour at most. Transfer to a virtual account. Gwen looked at Lun with her beautiful eyes and said, Lun, can you really fly? It's natural. Lun didn't hide it, Sky probably already told her anyway. She knew almost everything. And me, Gwen. I'm the Spider-Man. You should know that, right? Peter also quickly showed off himself. He really doesn't want others to know that he is Spider-Man. It's not that he is a coward, but he does this to protect his family behind him. But Gwen has clearly become one of our own. I know this, Peter, you're great too. You've fought so many criminals, you're the superhero of the city. Gwen generously gave Peter a thumbs up. Then, Gwen looked at Lun like a little fangirl again and said, Lun, can you take me back later? I also want to experience the feeling of flying into the sky. At the moment, a flock of crows flew over Peter's head, who was originally praised by the goddess. With tears in her eyes, she turned her head and looked away. It's so hurtful. This is the equivalent of Gwen telling herself, you're a good person. Then she turned and threw herself into the arms of another man. Lun, I want to break up with you. Finally, Peter couldn't help but roar. Then, Peter, who thought Lun would ask for his forgiveness, heard Lun's very calm words. Okay, the door is there, don't forget to close it when you go out. Gah! Peter's mouth almost dropped to the ground when Barton saw him. Then, Lun nodded and said to Gwen, no problem. When Gwen heard that Lun agreed to take her flying, she jumped up happily. The long legs looked so pleasing to the eye. But Peter could only sit on the sofa and watch TV silently. Gwen stayed here for a while and then suggested leaving. In fact, in countries like the United States, parents usually don't care if girls spend the night outside. But, families like Gwen's are completely different. What's more, he has a police officer dad who is crazy about fox girls. So, Gwen is like Sky, although incredibly beautiful. There are many people pursuing her, but she has never been in a relationship. Lun nodded, and the two flew away under Peter's tearful gaze. Wow, that's great, Lun, thank you for taking me flying. High in the sky, looking at the brightly lit New York below, feeling the air brushing against your cheeks. Although the oxygen is uneven, it still can't hide the beauty. Flying into the sky has been a dream of mankind since ancient times. This is the thought in the genes at this moment. It was only natural for Gwen to be so excited. This time, Lun was flying in the air while standing, and the speed was much slower. In addition, Lun placed an ice pedal under the feet of the two. Gwen just held onto her shoulders enough to steady herself. It's okay, maybe you can do it in the future. Thinking of Gwen being bitten by a spider today, Lun couldn't help but think of Spider-Man. Maybe, in this integrated world, there really is a Spider-Man. Not in a parallel universe. Really? I can fly too, so stop trying to make me happy. Gwen obviously didn't believe it. Soon, they arrived downstairs of Gwen's house. Lun chose to land in a less crowded place and dropped off Gwen, who was reluctant to leave. Lun, do you want to go upstairs and sit down? Gwen asked, blushing a little. Seeing the other person's expression, Lun showed a sunny smile and said, no, I have to go back and see if Sky has finished it. Then, as if he had thought of something, he said, if you feel unwell next, don't panic, it may not be a bad thing. Bye. After saying that, he turned around and left gracefully. Gwen was left with a complicated look. She didn't know why, but at that moment just now, she suddenly wanted to throw herself into Lun's arms. Thinking about it now, this idea is so terrible. When did I become so dissolute? Then he turned quickly and walked into the building. But he didn't notice the figure appearing behind him. How come this person looks so much like the one who defeated that poisonous scorpion? This is a middle-aged man, and Gwen's big eyes are somewhat similar to his. He was Gwen's father, George Stacy, who had just dealt with something at the police station. The next day, Sky told Lun some news. One of them was naturally to complete the transfer of all of Vladimir's assets. The total amount is about 5 billion. It was just transferred to a virtual account. The authorities could find no trace at all. By then, the money will be transferred to Lun's account little by little, and it won't take too much time. The second is some hot news. Chapter 61. The destruction of the Russian mafia must have made the news. Then there is the matter of the lizardmen. Another thing that interested Lun was that water company discovered that deep sea had been shattered. Then, Starlight of the Seven defected from Vought and joined the Black Robes. Then the man in black robe revealed a lot of negative information about water company. After these scandals were exposed, water company completely lost support. Most people know the hypocritical face of Vought Corporation. However, after all, water company is rich and powerful, and no one knows what means it has used to survive. No doubt about it, it should be the super ability. It seems that the final battle with Walter is getting closer. Although the news did not mention whether Walter investigated the deaths of Shenhai and others. However, I have been making so much noise these days, as long as water company is willing to connect this issue, I will probably be exposed. However, Lun is no longer afraid of these now. Although the current Kryptonian body has only been developed to a small extent, it can be combined with ninjutsu, wood escape, ice fruit, and domineering. Even if these trump cards cannot defeat Homelander, they will definitely allow him to escape unscathed. So, now if we just run another simulation, Lun will probably be able to crush Homelander. Ding! Because the host's accumulated simulation progress is too outstanding, this time the host can directly enter a world and learn extraordinary abilities. Just when Lun was about to start the simulation, the system's voice suddenly came. Lun was slightly surprised that he could enter the world directly. This is equivalent to entering the copy world yourself. So Lun opened the panel to see how many worlds he could choose from. Dozens of simulated worlds appeared before me. Naruto, One Piece, Dragon Ball, Gourmet Hunter, DC, Martial Arts, One Punch Superman, Kamen Rider, Black Clover, Death God, Star Wars. Large file size, small, and dozens of different worlds in total. Lun didn't expect that there would be so many worlds to choose from this time. However, the fantasy or fairy world that Lun expected did not appear. This means that it has not yet been unlocked to this level. Otherwise, Lun really wanted to enter a fantasy world, to learn a fairy emperor technique, to learn a heaven-swallowing magic technique, or you can use the divine elephant prison suppressing power, and then you will be invincible in an instant. Now it seems that I am still a little unqualified. In this case, I couldn't help but think about it and decisively chose the world of martial arts. The first 3 times were all simulations of the world created by other countries. Now let's leave this opportunity to enter the copy to the world created by the Great Celestial Empire. Sky, I need to study my super ability and cannot be disturbed. After Lun told Sky something, she locked her door. Do we have to develop super abilities so seriously? Then I will work hard too. Sky was a little confused, but he believed Lun's words, so after washing the dishes, he also entered his room and began to study his super ability. System, I want to enter the martial arts world. Ding, selection successful, preparing for world teleportation. 987, 321, teleport. The next second, Lun lost consciousness. Shit, teleportation can cause fainting. Lun used the last bit of consciousness he had left to make this complaint. On the other side, Hell's Kitchen. Jin Bing sat in the boss chair. A middle-aged man with an unshaven beard stood below. You are Anton Vanko's son, Ivan Vanko. Jin Bing asked the middle-aged man in his deep and somewhat intimidating voice. The middle-aged man's eyes were filled with some hatred, but he also knew the identity of the person in front of him, so he nodded and replied, Yes, sir. Okay, then, your father should hand over the arc reactor technology to you. Kingpin's face, which was full of flesh, became somewhat excited. As long as you can build an arc reactor, develop a powerful combat robot with Arist. As long as I can do it, you can ask for anything. After hearing this, Ivan Vanko shook his head and said, What I want most now is to kill Tony Stark. Looking at his resentful eyes, Jin couldn't help but grin. When he brought this man from Russia, he had already investigated the feud between Ivan Vanko's father and the Stark family. Okay, I'll meet your request. In addition, if you're willing, after you've taken your revenge, you can be the chief scientist in my institute, just like Arist. Thank you very much, Mr. Jin Bing. Ivan Vanko was not completely blinded by hatred. He had had enough of living in poverty for so many years. His IQ is obviously not inferior to Tony Stark's, but their experiences are worlds apart. So, in addition to hatred for Tony Stark, there is also jealousy of his good life. A big shot like Kingpin would obviously give him the opportunity to display his genius IQ. Okay, Arist, from now on you will work with Ivan to develop combat robots. Kingpin said as he looked at his men sitting in high-tech wheelchairs. Alistair nodded, Yes, Mr. Kingpin. Chapter 62. In the darkness, Lun slowly opened his eyes. Before he could adjust to the environment, he smelled an extremely pungent stench. Where the hell is this? Why does it stink so bad? As soon as this thought flashed through my mind, I was stunned. The surrounding walls were made of stones, and there was a window about the size of a head, through which a beam of light shone. Opposite the window are several wooden pillars. Shit, this is a prison. No, this is an ancient dungeon. Lun immediately understood her situation at the moment. He still remembered that when he was about to be transferred to the martial arts world by the system, his mind suddenly became blurred and he finally fell into a coma. What is certain is that I should have come to the ancient martial arts world. But what is certain is that he was actually in prison at the beginning. What is going on? Hey, you're awake. It's fate that we meet in such an environment. Brother, what's your name? My name is Cheng Shifei. Just when Lun's thoughts were still flying, a slightly exaggerated voice suddenly sounded in his ears. Turning around, I saw a man in tattered clothes sitting on the torn straw mat next to me. The man had an untidy beard and messy hair covering most of his face. Is this my cellmate? Lun realized that the person in front of him was also a criminal. No, he was not a criminal. In this case, the person in front of me is likely to know how I got in. So he imitated the ancient way of greeting and said, Hello, Brother Cheng. My name is Lu Li. I wonder if Brother Cheng knows how I got here, and what this world is. You may not believe it, but all my previous memories have disappeared, as if I had become a blank sheet of paper. Lun naturally did not reveal his real name, and even made up a statement that sounded very fake. I don't know if the other party will believe me if I say this. After all, we can't treat people in ancient times as fools. Unexpectedly, the man in front of him named Cheng Shifei seemed to be extremely insane. She widened her eyes a little exaggeratedly, lifted her hair in front of her eyes, and approached Lun, saying, "You actually lost your memory after such a big incident. Brother Lu is one of the most amazing people I've ever seen. I'm sorry to have made you laugh, Brother Cheng." For some reason, Lun always felt that she had heard the name Cheng Shifei somewhere before. "Well, in that case, I'm bored and I'll explain it to you." Cheng Shifei waved his hand generously, sat in front of Lun, and began to tell him everything he knew. It turned out that Lun was already unconscious when she was brought in. At that time, Cheng Shifei had already been sent in. He only heard what the jailers said: "This man is dressed in strange clothes, his origin is unknown, and he fell outside the palace. He is very likely a spy from a foreign land." Now Lun understood. "When I was teleported here by the system, I was discovered by the officers and soldiers here and then taken to the prison. Also, because I was wearing modern clothes, I thought I was from a foreign country. This is not too surprising. Whether it's my hair or my clothes, you can tell at first glance that I'm not an ancient person. I was lucky enough not to be killed directly. However, the system should protect itself and not cause its own death." Then, as the other party spoke, Lun roughly understood the world he had traveled to. This is a world of comprehensive martial arts. There are the Qin, Sui, Tang, Song, Yuan, and Ming dynasties. There are also marginal countries such as Mobei, Xiongnu, and Bailiang. For example, the Qin dynasty had the 100 schools of thought, the Sui dynasty had the Yinghui sect and Sahang Jingzai, and the Tang dynasty had the bad people. As for the Ming dynasty, the emperor was still Zhu Yuanzhang, but he established the East and West factories, the embroidered uniform guard, the 6 gates, and the Halong villa. Lun finally understood who the person in front of her was. Cheng Shifei, the future Yellow Letter #1 secret of Halong villa, and the protagonist of the film and television series The World's #1. The time point when he traveled through was when Cheng Shifei was sent to the palace to be a eunuch. Definitely, in the end he became Fifei but did not become a eunuch, and he also met an unparalleled master. Now, Lun knew what to do next. So, he asked Cheng Shifei, who was talking non-stop, "Brother Cheng, do you want to escape?" "Ah." Cheng Shifei opened his mouth again in an exaggerated manner, and suddenly became very serious. He leaned close to Lun's ear and he whispered, "Of course I don't want to be a eunuch. Brother Lu, do you have a way to break the impasse?" Seeing the other person's nonchalant look, Lun couldn't help but sigh at the other person's mentality. He's about to become a eunuch, but he can't even see that the other person is nervous. Lun didn't say much, and knocked on the wall of the cell left and right. This made Cheng Shifei, who was standing by, quite puzzled. "Brother Lu, are you planning to break through the wall?" "Forget it. This is the Imperial prison, it's very strong. Even a top-notch expert may not be able to break it." Cheng Shifei immediately said that Lun was having a bit of a fantasy. But, the next second, his eyes exploded. Lun aimed at one place and punched it hard. The wall was broken open. Moreover, the sound was very small. In such a large prison, the jailer could not hear any noise from this side. Chapter 63. This time, Cheng Shifei widened his eyes again and said in an exaggerated manner, "Brother Lu, how did you know that this place is connected?" Lun waved her hands, fortunately her strength was still there. "So," he said, "I don't know either, I just guessed, and I was born with supernatural powers." After saying that, he went into the passage that appeared behind him. Cheng Shifei looked back and saw that no one noticed him, so he went straight in. In this way, the further they walked in, the wider the passage became. Soon, the two entered a spacious stone chamber. The place was filled with corpses, which was horrifying. "Brother Lu, we didn't just get out of the prison and end up in an even deeper prison, did we?" Seeing the corpses around him, Cheng Shifei couldn't help but become nervous. Although he grew up in the market, some legends still survived. This is obviously where important criminals are held. It's not an escape hatch at all. Lun did not deny it, but nodded and said, "Yes, this is indeed a deeper prison." "Ah, what shall I do?" Cheng Shifei was so frightened that he immediately turned around and looked in the direction he came from, obviously having decided to retreat. "Don't you know how to use your brain? Since this is a cave, there must be a passage out." Lun rolled her eyes at the other person in annoyance. "Then, walk inside again." Finally, I saw chains as thick as a baby's arm. And in the center of these chains, there was a disheveled man. Ah, ghost! Chang Shifei was so scared when he saw the figure that he immediately screamed. Shut up, what are you shouting about, this is a human. Lun now regretted bringing this guy out. Then, Lun said to the figure on the stone altar who was locked by countless chains, Junior Lu Li, meet Senior Gu Santung. As soon as Lun's voice came out, the man who was originally dozing on the stone altar slowly raised his head. The numerous chains weighing thousands of pounds made a metallic collision sound. Are you the one sent by Zhu Wuzi to get my martial arts secrets? The old man's face was calm, but as soon as he said this, his aura suddenly turned cold. No, Senior, you have misunderstood. I am not from the Ming dynasty. Because he was caught here by accident, he broke through the prison wall by chance. I didn't expect to see Senior Gu Santung here. This person is none other than Gu Santung, who was defeated in the battle with the iron-hearted godly Marquis Zhu Wuzi. He is also the biological father of the slouchy guy next to him, Chang Shifei. The reason why Gu Santung fought with Zhu Wuzi was precisely to snatch Chang Shifei's mother. The two agreed that if Gu Santung lost, he would be thrown into prison. Next to the stone altar was a stone tablet with the words Iron-Hearted Divine Marquis written on it. What it means is that seeing the stone tablet is like seeing the Iron-Hearted Divine Marquis. Gu Santung cannot leave. Do you really think I will believe your bullshit lies? Gu Santung had unkempt hair and his eyes flashed with an extremely sharp gaze behind his messy hair. Chang Shifei, who was standing next to him, was so frightened that he shuddered, pulled Lun's clothes and whispered, Brother Lu, let's leave quickly. I think this old monster is going to eat us. Maybe he ate all these corpses. Snort. But for a master like Gu Santung who has entered the innate realm, his voice is no different from speaking loudly. But the other party really didn't bother to deal with these two guys. What if I tell Senior Gu that the man in front of me is your own flesh and blood? Facing Gu Santung's anger, Lun was not in a hurry at all. He just said something that shocked Gu Santung and Chang Shifei. You are talking nonsense. I have no offspring at all. Zhu Wuzi's methods are really becoming more and more childish. Gu Santung naturally couldn't believe such a ridiculous thing. Chang Shifei was also surprised for a moment, then he pulled Lun again and said, Yes, Brother Lu, I don't believe your lies. I have no father or mother and grew up in the market. How could the man in front of me be my father? That's because you haven't seen them. Lun remained calm and looked at Gu Santung. If you don't believe me, you can try it, you can try any method to confirm whether you are the real father and son. Anyway, I am here. If the seniors want to attack the juniors with their own methods, the juniors will not be able to escape. Brother Lu, let's stop making trouble and find the exit quickly. Just run away. This old monster is obviously not a normal person. Maybe he has gone crazy after being locked up for so long. Besides, how could I be his son? I am so handsome. How is he like me? Without waiting for Gu Santung to say anything, Chang Shifei pulled Lun and wanted to leave. Anyway, he didn't believe what Lun said. Ouch, it hurts so much. However, before he had taken Lun a few steps, he felt a sudden pain in his arm. Then he saw a wound on his arm, with blood flowing out. Then a wound appeared on Gu Santung's arm, and the blood that appeared was intertwined with Chang Shifei's blood in the air. Chapter 64. The two streams of blood were held up by an invisible force and then miraculously intertwined together. This is actually true. Although Gu Santung doubted Lun's words and Lun's identity. But, in the end, emotion triumphed over reason. He has been imprisoned here for more than 20 years and knows very little about what's happening outside. He did marry Solan, but when he was imprisoned, he didn't know that she was pregnant. Although he didn't believe Lun's words, he couldn't be sure whether Solan had given birth to his own child. Therefore, he used the sword energy to release the blood of the two. Use your true chi to lift it up. This method is more effective than blood test. Then, under the surprised gazes of Gu Santung and Chang Shifei, the two streams of blood were integrated together. FK, this is really my dad. Chang Shifei was immediately shocked. He had lived for more than 20 years and never thought that he would be able to find his father. This is simply too unbelievable. Ha 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 ha, I didn't expect that I, Gu Santung, am not alone. I actually have a son, ha 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 ha. Gu Santung laughed wildly, and the internal energy that overflowed from him made the 1,000-pound chains tremble continuously. Well, old senior, please don't get excited. How can you be sure that they are father and son with just this one move? Chang Shifei wanted to call him dad, but he just couldn't bring himself to say it. Well, what do you want? Gu Santong ignored his son and instead looked at Lun. He knew that the other party definitely did not tell him these things for nothing. There must be some purpose. Lun secretly admired in his heart, he was indeed a gangster, he was always quick and efficient in doing things. He nodded and said, whether you believe it or not, I am not from the Ming dynasty, nor am I a subordinate of Zhu Wuzi. You can understand that the reason why I know this is some divination skills. My request is very simple, teach me the Yi Jinjing you have. This is Lun's real purpose. He came here for only 3 days. Therefore, we must seize the opportunity to learn the God of Door skill. I don't know whether to be happy or angry. I actually came to the plot at this time when Chang Shifei was in trouble. He encountered the plot of Gu Santong when Lun watched the world's #1 in his previous life, but he remembered it clearly. He just took advantage of the truth that Chang Shifei was his son to exchange for the secret manual of magical skills in his hands. This guy absorbed all the martial arts from the 8 major sects and learned all their martial arts. Otherwise, these martial arts would not have been attributed to Chang Shifei. However, Lun only learns martial arts that make up for his own shortcomings. Yi Jinjing is the best martial art. Because his physical and mental strength are acceptable, but his own energy, understood here as true qi, is likely to be exhausted. The Yi Jinjing is a method of making your true qi endless. Gu Santong mastered the complete Yi Jinjing. You are really good at picking. I don't know your background, but I believe what you say. I also believe that you will not use the Yi Jinjing to do evil. Just close your eyes and I will teach you the Yi Jinjing. Gu Santong didn't know why, but he was wary of the young man in front of him who came from an unknown place. But what is certain is that the other party is indeed very selfish, but I always feel that he is not a very evil person. I can't let Yi Jinjing, the God of Door, decay in my hands, so I'd better teach it to others. You little brat, listen carefully. If you can't even learn this martial art, I won't let you go. After saying that, Gu Santong looked at Chang Shifei coldly again. Hey, I haven't acknowledged that you are my father yet. Believe it or not, I'll beat your butt until it's bruised and bruised. If I say yes, then that's it. With my reputation as Gu Santong, could it be that I am crazy enough to recognize a son casually? This scene is very much like a loving father and a filial son. Then, Lun accepted the teachings from Gu Santong. Not long after, Lun had completed his training. He unexpectedly got it right away, and he could feel the energy in his body becoming stronger and purer. The Yi Jinjing is not only a perpetual motion machine, but also a purification machine. When the power is purified, the same move will have greater power. Looking at Chang Shifei who was also sitting cross-legged next to him, this guy had actually also entered a stable state of operation. It's just a little slower than me. Yes, you are the most talented young man I have ever seen in my life. Although my son is also a genius, but I have to admit that he is still a little bit behind you. Gu Santong on the stone altar praised Lun generously when he saw her wake up. Lun smiled and nodded, bowing to him, the junior thanks the senior. No matter what, I owe the other party a huge favor. You go ahead. I will teach you the inner strength, which is also your own opportunity. Besides, since you have learned the top martial arts skills, it's time to find a martial art that suits you. If you don't mind, I can recommend someone to you. Senior, please speak. Chapter 65. In an inn in the Forbidden City, a man wearing a black gauze hat was sipping the tea in his hand. It's a bit surprising that tea in ancient times was so sweet. This person is Lun in disguise. After coming out of the prison, Lun changed her clothes. After all, her modern clothes were too eye-catching there. As for where the money came from, it was naturally taken from the bandits in the mountains not far outside the Forbidden City. Before the bandits could react, they were pierced by branches that appeared out of nowhere. These guys were robbing, burning, killing, and looting, doing all kinds of evil. Lun felt no guilt for killing them. Shortly after he left, Gu Santong and his son also escaped from the prison. He is currently wanted by organizations such as the Six Gates of the Ming Dynasty. Because he found his son, Gu Santong did not want to be like in the original novel, where he believed that there is no greater sorrow than death. He died after engraving the magical skills of various sects on Cheng Shifei's body. He has now found his purpose in life, so he decides not to abide by the bullshit agreement with Zhu Wuzi and leaves with his son. He himself is not capable of doing it, but by then his son Cheng Shifei will definitely be able to surpass him. To avenge all the grudges of the past. Lun doesn't care about these. He came here just to meet someone recommended by Gu Santung. Waiter, a pot of wine, a pound of beef jerky, and an ounce of peanuts. Just then a man with 4 eyebrows walked into the restaurant and ordered these things. Okay, sir, please wait a moment and it will be ready soon. The waiter responded and went to the kitchen. The man sat at the table next to Lun. Without hesitation, Lun walked straight over. Brother, do we know each other? Seeing a person wearing a black hat sitting next to him, the man asked directly in confusion. Senior, are you Lu Xiaofeng? Lun asked directly. Although the man was puzzled about the identity of the person in front of him, he still nodded and said, "It is me. I wonder who this little brother is." Lun didn't say much, and directly handed a piece of white cloth full of words to Lu Xiaofeng. Senior, please read this handwritten letter first, and you will know my identity. Lu Xiaofeng looked at the handwriting with a little surprise, and recognized the handwriting at a glance. Lu Xiaofeng, who was originally skeptical, immediately became serious. Only after he finished reading did he carefully put away the handwritten letter, looked at Lun and smiled. Brother Lu, my brother Gu has already explained your affairs to me. Since you were recommended by brother Gu, and we have the same surname, I don't doubt his judgment. However, my best martial arts is swordsmanship. I wonder if you are willing to learn it. Obviously, Gu Santung had already explained in his mind how he and Lun met. Lun didn't expect that in this world of martial arts, Gu Santung and Lu Xiaofeng were actually old friends for many years. There has really been a big change here. Please teach me swordsmanship, senior. Lun only has 2 days left, so he must hurry up and learn an external skill. Sword skills are what he wants to learn most among these external skills. The reason is simple. The sword symbolizes sharpness and the courage to move forward. Lu Xiaofeng's swordsmanship is also of the treacherous and changeable type, but Lun likes this very much. What kind of swordsmanship do you want to learn? Lu Xiaofeng's major was swordsmanship, so in addition to his own understanding of swordsmanship, he also had the unique sword skills from various major sects. Although Lun has learned the Yi Jin Jing, he, a master of swordsmanship, is unable to figure out the types of swordsmanship. Fairy from the sky. Lun didn't hesitate at all. Good. Lu Xiaofeng had no doubt about how Lun knew that he knew Yeguken's famous sword technique Flying Fairy from the sky. Anyway, the senior figures in the world know something about it more or less. Gu Santung told the other party that this was not surprising. 2 days later, Lun slashed out a series of afterimages with his sword, and many of the afterimages turned into sword energy and flew away. All the trees within a 10-meter radius fell to the ground. Very good, your swordsmanship has reached the entry level. I believe it won't take too long before you can master the sword skills to a certain degree. Seeing Lun finishing off the attack, Lu Xiaofeng nodded with satisfaction. Lun stepped forward, knelt on one knee, and spoke respectfully, Senior, I am leaving now, but don't worry, I will not just leave. Senior, I will definitely repay your kindness. Lu Xiaofeng waved his hand nonchalantly and said, I don't care whether you repay me or not. Although you didn't say much about your affairs, but I can vaguely guess that you are going there to seek revenge. I will not persuade you to stop the cycle of revenge. Because these words are just excuses made by those weak-minded people. I only want to say one thing, those who were taught by me, Lu Xiaofeng, must not lose. Lun didn't expect Lu Xiaofeng to be so observant, but after thinking about it, she understood. If the other party's vision is too narrow, he will not become a congenital master. Don't worry, senior. I won't let you down. After saying this, Lun bowed deeply and quickly left using his skills. It was not until he was 1,000 miles away that he was sure that Lu Xiaofeng could no longer perceive him. A white light flashed, and Lun's figure disappeared. Chapter 66. When Lun opened her eyes again, she was back in her bedroom. I glanced at the time and saw that 3 hours had passed. In other words, 1 hour in the real world represents about 1 day in the copy world. Feeling the constant power in his body, Lun was very satisfied. The energy absorbed by the Yi Jinjing is automatically converted into strength suitable for your own body. This is why Lun said that this time travel was a blessing from heaven. If you learn something like 9 yin scriptures, 9 yang magic art, or wedding dress magic art. Although it can also be compared to Yi Jinjing. But these techniques are not very suitable for me. Because those martial arts can only form one kind of true Qi energy. Unlike the Yi Jinjing, which is both a perpetual motion machine and a converter. This is the kind of martial arts he wants. The original Kryptonian body can obtain greater energy than the ordinary Kryptonian body through radiation. But the quantity is limited after all. Now, the Yi Jinjing is just the right supplement. Moreover, he can also integrate all the energy in the body into one energy. Ninjutsu, Ice Fruit ability, and the original Kryptonian body. Now the Yi Jinjing in his body has been transformed into a kind of energy, so it will not be chaotic. These powers will not be categorized, but will become one of Lun's skills. It can also be used as a martial arts secret book. It's over. I've prepared dinner. Someone is looking for you downstairs. Seeing Lun walk out the door, Sky also walked out of his bedroom, as if he had been paying attention to Lun's movements. Who is it? Lun nodded. His observation Haki had already perceived who the person was. Hey my friend, meeting you is 10,000 times harder than it is for me to pick up a magazine girl. Seeing Tony Stark making exaggerated jokes, Lun was amused by him. I couldn't help but joked, you have changed your ways, haven't you? Aren't you afraid that Ms. Pepper will be jealous when you say that? She won't. At most she won't talk to me for a few days. Tony's joke just now was obviously just a joke. After what happened with the 10 Commandments gang, he has become very mature. Although he had not yet grown into the outstanding Iron Man he would become in the future, he was developing in that direction. Why are you coming to me? I won't provide you with scientific assistance. Lun was not surprised at all that Tony could find his home easily. After all, Jarvis is considered the most advanced artificial intelligence in the world. Although Tony didn't mention it last time, he could sense that he intended to let Lun join their Stark Enterprises. After all, it is not an ordinary person who can design technology that is decades ahead of the world. However, Lun doesn't want to get into technology right now. I know that, I just came to celebrate something happy with you. Tony didn't seem to mind at all. Suddenly I smelled a wonderful aroma of food, and when I saw the food on the table, my eyes lit up immediately. Oh my god, is this Hyuxia cuisine? It makes me drool just by smelling it. After saying that, Tony took a sip of saliva exaggeratedly. Oh, you are in for a treat, Sky, get a set of bowls and chopsticks. Lun did not drive Tony away, after all, he was still a guest. Moreover, I have to share dividends with myself every year. I can't be so stingy and not let others enjoy it. Oh. Sky was obviously reluctant. Even if the other person was Tony Stark, she didn't want him to eat the loving lunch she prepared for Lun. But since Lun said so, I had no choice but to agree. So, the three of them sat at the table, and as soon as Tony took a bite of the Hyuxia food, he was immediately fascinated. Oh my goodness, this is delicious, Ms. Sky. Your cooking skills are better than those of chefs in 5-star hotels. The Hyuxia dishes I have eaten before, compared to what you did, it's just garbage. Tony ate with his mouth full of oil and did not hesitate to praise it. You know, he is Tony Stark and he has tasted all kinds of delicacies in the world. It can be said that the other party's taste is extremely picky. So since he said that, it proves that Sky did a really great job. Tell me, what are you doing here? Is there any new progress on your mark armor? Lun did not stop what he was doing, and swept away everything along the way. Tony is right, this girl Sky is really capable. Whether it's hacking techniques or cooking skills, he can do it very well. Hearing Lun's words, Tony, who was busy eating, nodded, and then said vaguely, nothing can be hidden from you. Ethan and I used new elements to develop a new mark armor. After that, Tony handed the briefcase to Lun under the table. After Lun told him where the new element was, he replaced the old one. In this way, the element core of arc reactor will not have any problems. He also doesn't have to worry about always having to replace the elemental core. Because the palladium element needs to replace its core frequently. This is the Mark 8, which is completely different from the simple suitcase version of the Mark V. Chapter 67. Lun picked up the metal suitcase Tony handed her. It weighs about 100 pounds. Lun understood that the metal housing used aerospace materials. It is not heavy. What is heavy are the various weapons installed inside. The activation code is LUN New B shining bright. Tony stared at Lun with a strange look in his eyes. It was obvious that he had set this password on purpose. How embarrassing. Sky couldn't help but hold his forehead. Tony didn't care at all, shrugged and said, "This is what Rod taught me, I just feel it's very good." Tony has donated a mech to the military that is similar to the one used by his good friend Colonel Rhodes. It's just Rod New B is shining. Tony not only doesn't care about such an embarrassing password, but he finds it quite funny. Lun didn't say anything about Tony's amazing train of thought. Since the other party gave me this thing, I would just accept it. Anyway, he doesn't need a mecha like this. At worst, I can just pay him back something later. Press buttons that don't seem obvious. The suitcase immediately began shape-shifting and soon covered Lun's entire body. "Hello, Master. Please enter the power-on password to start the program." As soon as Lun was covered by the mecha, text images appeared in front of her eyes and a mechanical female voice sounded. Lun resisted the urge to punch Tony and said, "Lun is awesome. The power-on password is correct. Please name this artificial intelligence." Lun didn't expect that this artificial intelligence had no name. Tony already has Jarvis, so he should just give himself a nicer name. "Then you should call yourself Genie Tame. Please change to a normal name, Master." Lun didn't expect that this artificial intelligence would have such a strong personality. "Then just call me Xiao AI. Naming successful, Master, would you please activate the mecha? Start up." Then, right in front of Tony and Sky's eyes, Lun flew directly out of the open window. "Hey, Lun, I want to try it too." Sky shouted to Lun who had already flown far away. But apparently, Lun couldn't hear any more. In the air, Lun was inside the mecha, feeling the sonic boom in the air. Yes, it's quite different from the feeling of flying without a mecha. This time Tony seems to have reached an agreement with the authorities. His mecha will not be blocked by the military or other mysterious organizations. To put it bluntly, his mecha has become legalized just like airplanes. So, Lun had a smooth journey. When he reached the top of a group of mountains, he said, "Xiao AI, try to release an attack for me." "Yes, Master." Small green and mushroom missiles launched, boom. Accompanied by a deafening explosion, in front of Lun's surprised eyes, the top of a mountain was directly blown to pieces. FK, Tony is really willing to spend money. Although she was surprised, Lun felt relieved when she thought about the more powerful black technologies that Tony would come up with later. Considering that he had made too much noise, Lun sped up and left. The authorities have indeed legalized Tony's mecha. But I never said that the other party can destroy the ecological environment at will. I don't want to get into trouble. Return to the villa again and take off the mecha. Tony was speechless. You should at least test the power of this experiment on an uninhabited island. I couldn't help it. Who knew you were equipped with such a weapon? Lun said nonchalantly. Haha, there's something even better, and we'll be successful soon. Tony didn't care about these. Even though he received a call from his good friend Rod, he admitted it was him without panic. He knew that Lun was not afraid of the authorities, but he also did not want to see Lun conflict with the authorities again because of him. "Hi, is this Mr. Lun's home?" Just as Lun and Tony were talking, a voice came that sounded even more exaggerated than Tony's. Tony immediately looked over and saw a man in a crimson uniform. A man wearing a panda eye mask and carrying two short knives behind his back. At the moment he was hanging on the window glass like a koala. At the same time, the left hand also made a gesture of looking inside. "Who are you?" Before Lun could speak, Tony looked at her seriously, which was rare. After owning the mecha, he also did a lot of training on himself. This includes combat awareness. The person in front of me looks very exaggerated and funny, and a little bit mean. Compared with him, I am nothing. After all, Tony is just crazy, but this guy is really a bcho. Sorry, I forgot to introduce myself. You can call me Deadpool. Haha, come to think of it, I can't die at all, even if I cut my neck with a hydraulic press yesterday. The next day, a body actually grew out from under the neck. Looking at the headless body, I was so scared that I ate several cheeseburgers. As soon as he heard about Tony's culture, the person in front of him immediately started introducing himself in a torrent of words. It was like he was almost revealing his private life in every possible way. Chapter 68. After hearing these words, Tony's expression gradually became strange. He even suspected that this guy in the panda costume had escaped from a mental hospital. However, Lun's eyes were slightly cold. He didn't expect that this guy would come to him. Deadpool. The most unique hero in Marvel. In other words, an anti-hero. Because, in a comic, Deadpool killed a lot of superheroes. This guy's strength is actually about the same as Captain America. But he has one most buggy attribute, which is immortality. In other words, this guy can also die. The way to kill him is to burn him completely into ashes. Don't look at me like that. I'm really a coward. If your bounty on the black market wasn't too high, I won't take this task at all, so I can only say sorry. When Deadpool noticed Lun's look, he exaggeratedly put his hands on his face, as if he was very scared. Have you ever tried the ion cannon? Tony was too lazy to continue talking to this guy, and he didn't know when the mecha was already in his hands. It turned out that he had been wearing the mecha inside his clothes. However, this set of mecha is obviously a specially made light armor. Otherwise, Tony would have difficulty moving. Deadpool was slightly stunned when he saw the light on his palm. Oh, I don't know about the ion cannon, but I have a lot of shock in my body. Every time my girlfriend. However, before he could finish his words, he was hit by an ion cannon and flew several meters away. Boom! Deadpool's body just smashed onto the street in the distance. There was an old lady walking on the street with a cane. Seeing the wound on his abdomen and the intestines flowing out, under such a strong visual impact, I was so scared that I fainted. Hehe, you guys have no sense of public morality. You scared the old lady to death. Even so, Deadpool acted as if there was no problem at all and stuffed the intestines that were flowing all over the floor. He quickly helped the old lady to the side of the road. FK, is this guy an indestructible cockroach? Tony was immediately shocked when he saw this scene. After hearing what Deadpool said, he had already determined that this man was a killer, or a mercenary. These guys will take anything as long as they have money. Including some unscrupulous things. The kidnapping incident, and the last time Lun blew up a military plane with one strike, Tony's mentality gradually changed. Tony has no sympathy for these people. The reason why he looks so saintly in movies and TV shows is actually because he was influenced by S.H.I.E.L.D. He has not joined S.H.I.E.L.D. yet. Since S.H.I.E.L.D. got the list of Hydra lurking in Lun last time, the news was lost. However, this made Tony happy and relaxed. This guy who speaks like a psycho has admitted that he is the killer. Then he won't have any burden. As a result, I didn't expect that this guy would not die even after this condition. He is invincible. His super ability is immortality. Seeing Tony's surprise, Lun couldn't help but explain. There are people like this. Sky, who had been silent, opened his mouth in surprise. Hehe, sorry to make you laugh. To be honest, I've always wanted to die, but I just can't. At the moment, Deadpool had entered the living room without knowing when. Looking at the hole in his abdomen, it had almost healed. Tony and Sky were extremely surprised at the explanation. However, at this moment, Deadpool suddenly pulled out two katanas from his waist and attacked Lun without warning. While playing with the knife, he said, "I'm sorry, I have accepted this mission and I must complete it. Don't worry, the other party wants you alive, I just need to knock you out and take you over." Immediately afterwards, Deadpool attacked Lun with his sword. Bang! However, before his knife could attack, it was knocked out of the window by a huge force and flew into the air. Wow wow wow, I'm flying, no that's not right, I'm going to die. Deadpool used shouting to ease the process of his body rising and falling. Until with a loud bang, it landed on the top of a tall building. Wade Wilson, tell me, who issued this mission? Lun also slowly landed on the roof, looking down at Deadpool who was performing shape-shifting. Oh my god, I didn't expect you to know my true identity. Who are you? How come you are so powerful? Deadpool seemed not to hear Lun's question and continued speaking in his exaggerated tone. At this time, Tony also rushed over wearing the Mark Mecha. Looking at Deadpool who was twisting his body and trying to recover his movements, he asked Lun, Lun, this guy doesn't look like a good person, should we sink him into the sea? Jarvis and I just thought of several ways and finally chose a great one. He is immortal, so we can just sink him into the sea and that will solve the problem. Hey, brother, don't be like this, I didn't offend you, why are you bombarding me with Kyoko right away? Now they have come up with such a cruel method. Hearing this, Deadpool hurriedly used his recovered arm to stop him. It's the ion cannon. Tony's face turned black, that's why I want to kill you. Tony didn't know why he wanted to kill the other person so badly. Now I understand the reason, it's that the way this guy speaks is so infuriating. Sorry bro, I'm not waiting to be sunk into the ocean by you. Suddenly, Deadpool's voice rang in my ears. Looking again, I found that his body had recovered at some point, and he was already waving the long sword to attack Lun. Chapter 69. Lun was already wary of this. Facing the opponent's simple and direct swordsmanship, an ice sword condensed in his palm. Under Tony's surprised gaze, he casually made a sword flower. Under Deadpool Wade's fan-like knife attack, Lun was not panicked at all. It was like simply waving an ice sword, easily taking the opponent's attack. At first Wade thought Lun's swordsmanship was sharp, but he definitely wouldn't be able to keep it up for long. However, after about an hour, he found that Lun was still strolling in the garden. No matter which angle you want to attack from, the opponent can easily resolve it. I have met a master of swordsmanship. Could this be the ancient swordsmanship of the Celestial Empire? Deadpool is an impatient person. After such a long time of attacking without any effect, he has already realized that he and Lun are not at the same level. The opponent has not used his full strength until now, it's like he's playing with a child. Lun, however, enjoys it very much. He was just worried that there was no one to practice sword fighting with him, and then Deadpool came to his door. His Tianhui Fixian is a real martial art that can cut out sword energy. Although Deadpool's knife skills are chaotic, they are unique when combined with his own invincibility. Several times during this period, I was almost attacked by him in the vital parts. If it weren't for the strange and treacherous fairy from heaven, he would have really succeeded. Definitely, even if Wade attacked him, he wouldn't be hurt. Even with the adamantium dagger, it was not possible to break his defense. Even though this guy has the super ability of immortality, I still have 10,000 ways to kill him. Unless he is Deadpool in the comics, cursed by Thanos to never die. Even if it is completely evaporated, it will grow back again. This Deadpool looks like the Deadpool in the movie, and he can still be killed. There is a reason why we didn't kill him. FK, no more fighting. Just ask whatever you want to ask. I will never take a mission like this again. Finally, Deadpool Wade sat directly on the ground, breathing heavily and grabbing his mask nonchalantly. A face full of pits and dents, as if it had been hit by a meteorite, appeared in front of Lun and Tony. This guy showed his eccentric character to the fullest. He gave up on the task without any hesitation and had no professional ethics at all. Oh my god, are you from the movie Nightmare on Elm Street? You look so shocking. Not surprisingly, Tony used his sharp tongue to complain. What are you talking about? How can that guy compare to someone as handsome as me? You have no taste, Tony Stark. Obviously, Deadpool Wade knows Tony. Haha, your shameless ability is even more exaggerated than your immortality. Tony's counterattack was not at all empty. Okay, tell me, where did you take this mission, and who issued it? Lun didn't want to listen to these two guys throwing shit at each other. Ask for information about the bounty placed on you. Well, I don't really know. But I can take you to find the weasel. That guy definitely knows who posted the mission, but I beg you not to attack him. After all, this guy is just a middleman. Although he is not a good person, I still hope he is alive. Wade's face was filled with embarrassment, and surprisingly he actually pleaded for his friend. Walk. Lun's expression remained unchanged. Lun didn't care about these things. Having seen the Deadpool movie, he knew what kind of people like weasels were. He wasn't even bothered to take action against these extras. Even the simulator progress won't improve much. Okay, hey, could you please not be so rude? My head is going to fall off. At the moment, Deadpool was grabbed by the head by Lun and flew in the air. Lun said coldly, "Shut up, if you keep making noise I will really chop off your head and use it as a potted plant." That's a good idea. I can also build a high-tech flower pot and make this thing another project of our group. Tony, who was flying nearby in a mecha, immediately gave his own supplement using the loudspeaker. Hey, don't go too far. Deadpool felt that he was shameless enough and neither of them could compare to him. But when these two people are added together, I am nothing but a dwarf. Before long, they found themselves in a remote corner of Hell's Kitchen. There is a bar here with a very distinctive name, Sister Margaret's School for Lost Children. Short name, Sister Margaret's Bar. This bar is Weasel's mercenary bar, where various mercenary missions can be accepted. Deadpool Wade's mission to capture himself was issued through here. Hey, Wade, are you trying to tell me that the mission failed and that the other party found me? A bearded, slightly plump man spoke to the three people who came in. This person is Weasel, the owner of this bar and the middleman for the hired mission. As soon as I saw Lun and the other two walk in, I understood everything. Wade's mission was clearly a failure. As soon as Lun and the other two entered the shabby bar, they felt many malicious gazes on them. In response, Lun's eyes turned cold, and an extremely terrifying deterrent force was released. The many evil men with serious criminal records present were also frightened by this deterrent force, including the Weasel who secretly wanted to fire the gun. Now, they knew that the person in front of them was not someone they could afford to offend. Some of them knelt down silently in front of Lun and begged him to forgive them. After all, if they continue like this, there is a good chance that their heads will explode. Snort. Lun snorted coldly, and all the deterrents disappeared instantly. Everyone in the field breathed a sigh of relief. No one dared to look at Lun anymore, and her body is still shaking till now. Some people are even more frightened to the point of incontinence. Deadpool Wade naturally felt this deterrent force, and his expression when looking at Lun became less exaggerated. He knew that this time, he had really offended a tough guy. Tell me, who issued this task? Lun looked at the Weasel that was almost lying on the ground and asked coldly. Chapter 70. I don't know either. Some of the tasks here do know the people who issue them. But some of them are posted anonymously. I can only give you a virtual web page. If you have the ability, you can use this virtual web page to track down the person who posted the task behind the scenes. The Weasel was so scared that he broke out in a cold sweat, but he still explained it with courage. Good. Through her super hearing, Lun was able to tell that the Weasel was not lying. But, even if there is only one virtual web page, there is Tony and his artificial intelligence Jarvis. Enough to find the mastermind. It just takes a little longer. Then, the Weasel reported a website address. After making sure that the Weasel was not lying, Lun nodded to Tony. Jarvis and Tony's mecha also started to work frantically. Then, Lun ignored the many fearful and horrified gazes here. He turned around and wanted to leave the bar. Lun, can you teach me your celestial swordsmanship? At this time, Deadpool Wade, who was thrown to the ground by Lun, shouted from behind. You are not qualified. After Lun said these 5 words, she left the bar without stopping. Tony, who was wearing a mecha, couldn't help but shook his head and said, actually, there is something Lun didn't say. I can add that you are just daydreaming. Then, with Deadpool Wade gritting his teeth in anger, he rode away in a metal armor. Just as Lun walked out the door, a figure in a red dress just passed by him. This is a blonde woman with a very sexy and attractive figure. The appearance is also top-notch. But the only drawback is that the other person's eyes are too cold, just like a 1,000-year-old snow mountain. No, to be precise, it's not cold, but murderous aura. The eyes of the two met in the air. It's like a meteorite hitting a snowy mountain. Whoosh! There was an explosion in the air, and 2 cold lights went straight to Lun's heart and eyes. This method of attack is simple and crude, without any fancy tricks. Lun immediately flashed and came 2 meters away. Then the long sword in his hand condensed. It's time to forge a long sword, otherwise when fighting with others, you will always have to use the ice fruit ability to condense the long sword. Clank, clank, clank. As soon as Lun's sword was condensed, the opponent attacked again. Lun didn't expect the other party to respond so quickly, which was far beyond Captain America and others. Who the hell is this woman? Lun thought he knew a lot about American comics, but for a moment he couldn't remember who this woman was who had suddenly appeared. However, Lun's swordsmanship is equally treacherous and varied. The weapons in the woman's hands were 2 sharp trident-like weapons. Although it is short, its power is maximized in his hands. Lun also found that the opponent's melee ability was indeed very strong, but more importantly, her speed. That's right, this woman has extraordinary powers. Oh my god, there's a fight outside. At this time, everyone in the bar also noticed the situation outside. Many strong men in the bar rushed to the glass to watch. Tony was standing at the door of the bar, and a hand appeared behind him and was resting on his shoulder. Tony looked over and saw an extremely ugly face. He pushed the other person away and said unhappily, "Believe it or not, I will fire another missile at you. Don't be so stingy." Deadpool Wade had no choice but to raise his hands in disappointment. Then, I saw an extremely surprising scene. Lun, who was fighting with the woman in the red dress, suddenly had a lot of afterimages. Attack each other together. Phew. Then, before the opponent could react, he was pierced by a sword. My god, the swordsmanship of this celestial empire is so amazing. This move scared Deadpool. If Lun had used this move just now, he would have been defeated long ago. The entire battle, although it sounds long, actually only lasted a dozen seconds. The woman was pierced. Wade now realized how terrifying the other party was and how big the gap was between him and the other party. If the other party wanted to kill me, I would have died long ago. Even if you have the trait of immortality, it won't work. Erica. Lun finally figured out the other party's identity. Isn't this woman the top ninja trained by the hand? However, the Shura society is now destroyed. This woman probably came to her because of this. I was wrong. I thought you were not strong and that you were going to destroy the society while I was away. Now it seems that my idea was ridiculous. The woman's voice was also somewhat cold. But you can see her hatred for Lun. Lun slapped her away with one palm, and the long sword turned into cold mist that wrapped Erica, and the whole person turned into an ice sculpture. With a slight clench of his hands, the ice sculptures flew in all directions. Everyone in the bar saw this scene and was so frightened that they trembled all over. At this time, an alarm sounded from Jarvis in Tony's mecha. "Boss, someone invaded Mr. Lun's house and took Ms. Sky away." As soon as these words came out, Lun's eyes turned cold, and a terrifying aura swept out. With his super hearing, he was able to hear Jarvis' words perfectly. "Who is it?" The aura released by Lun directly stirred up a violent whirlwind on the street. The people in the bar couldn't bear such force and fell to the ground with foam at the mouth. Including Deadpool, who also fell to the ground and fainted. Tony, who was being specially cared for, also had his heart pounding. Jarvis inside responded. "Mr. Lun, it's Homelander, he took Ms. Sky away." "Homelander, I was planning to come find you after I finished dealing with Deadpool. I didn't expect you to come here by yourself. In this case, it's time to put an end to our feud." Chapter 71. On the water company building. Homelander floats above the rooftops. Sky was tied to an iron rack on the roof. Two women were standing nearby. They are Queen Maeve and Storm, who also possess powerful super abilities. At the moment, Sky's mouth was covered, his eyes were full of panic, and he constantly made a whimpering sound from his mouth. Seeing Sky like this, Homelander's eyes had a hint of madness. "Don't worry, my little beauty. After I kill your boyfriend who only knows how to sneak attack you from behind, I will make you my woman. Let you experience what a superhero's physical fitness is, ha ha ha." After saying this, he did not forget to look at Sky's figure, and the lustful look in his eyes was not concealed at all. Even Queen Maeve and Storm, who had close relationships with him, didn't dare to say anything. Next, Homelander looked toward the high-tech drone in the sky. He showed an extremely crazy smile and said, "Look, I have broadcast everything that happened here live in high definition. Now, if Lun comes over here, I will crush his head and let the whole United States see what happens to those who dare to go against me, Homelander. Moreover, I will rule the world, I am God, and everyone must bow down before me." Just as he said, at the moment, the scenes here were being played on big screens all over New York. Homelander has gone completely crazy. A few days ago, with the addition of Soldier Boy, Huey and others exposed all of Walter's ugly and dirty deeds. Uncle Chicken, the president of Water Company, was arrested on the spot. Homelander, Queen Maeve and Storm, the three remaining Vought superheroes, were condemned and accused by everyone like stray dogs. However, what Homelander hates most is not the people of the Black Robe Patrol. The one he hated most was the guy who had killed several of his companions. Ever since he killed the locomotive, which gave Black Robe and others the opportunity, Water Company began to go downhill. As a result, the Water Company is now completely condemned by everyone. Homelander is an extremely vain person. He likes the happiness that fame brings him and the feeling of being admired. It has almost become pathological. But now that man has ruined everything for him. So, he wanted to kill that guy and let everyone see what happens when they offend Homelander. Let everyone know that he is still the god of others. In this way, he finally found the culprit who killed several people on the locomotive. We also learned that the other party was the mastermind behind the destruction of the Tomahawk Gang, the Rising Tide, the Hand, and the Russian Mafia. After learning all this, he was not surprised, but filled with anger. He wanted to cut this man into pieces. Therefore, through the remaining intelligence personnel of Water Company, LUN's information was found. Know all the information about LUN. Originally, he planned to go straight to LUN, capture him, break his limbs, and then twist off his head. As it turned out, LUN was not at home. Only Sky was seen. Through the information he found, he also knew that this Sky lived in LUN's house and the two seemed to be lovers. So, Sky was captured directly. And spread the information. He believed that LUN would find out soon and come here. Now, it's time to put the plan into action. Homelander still had that cruel smile on his face. This scene was also completely recorded by many drones around. At the moment, all official organizations in the United States have seen all of this. Even the United States directly convened a meeting of its members. Who is this guy who messed with Homelander? He's so brave. We've all been harmed by him. What should we do? Homelander won't destroy the world, right? Should we send out Hiwu? A member of parliament suggested this. But it was soon opposed by other lawmakers. How can this be possible? Homelander just wants to find the person who killed several super ability users in Walter. I think after he kills him, he should not destroy the city. After all he wants is fame and the feeling of being feared. You think too simply. Once this guy goes crazy, it will be hard to control him. The Water Company should not have existed in the first place. So what should we do? We'll just have to wait and see. Now we just hope that the guy named LUN can at least injure Homelander and make him lose his Superman speed. Then our chances of success in launching the Kazu take will be higher. In an instant, all the congressmen stared at the big screen in the conference room. But, they can clearly hear each other's heartbeats. The tension was palpable. Within S.H.I.E.L.D. Nick Fury was also staring at the screen in front of him, and the picture showed Homelander laughing crazily. This made him clench his fists unconsciously. Then, he picked up the phone and said in a low voice, "Phil Coulson, call Natasha Romanoff, Barton, and bring some top agents over to provide support. Activate my level 10 authority and bring out the latest technological weapons." "Chief, are you sure you want to use those weapons?" Phil Coulson over there was a little surprised. "You know, the value of those weapons was simply unimaginable." I said, "Open it." "Do I need to repeat it again?" Nick Fury scolded with a gloomy face. "Yes." Phil Coulson here didn't dare to say anything more and hurried to carry out the mission. Black Widow Natasha Romanoff and Hawkeye Barton had also seen Homelander's live broadcast a long time ago. I didn't expect the other party to be so shameless as to use a girl as a threat. After receiving the order, he followed Phil Coulson into an armory. In the very center of here, there is a cube emitting blue light. There are many high-tech weapons next to it. It's like it's charging. They picked up the weapons without hesitation and rushed outside as quickly as possible. This is definitely an unprecedented war. Nick Fury on the other side saw many agents on another screen leave. The one eye looked even gloomier. "LUN, we at S.H.I.E.L.D. owe you a favor, but this time it's up to you." Although the Hydra undercover hidden in S.H.I.E.L.D. was exchanged for the Obelisk and LUN. However, such things are nothing to them. Instead, it was LUN's intelligence that helped S.H.I.E.L.D. avoid a major crisis. So, S.H.I.E.L.D. owes LUN. However, facing Homelander, the strongest fighter in the world, he can only do his best to help. Everything depends on LUN herself. While he was nervous, he also wanted to see how strong LUN was. In addition to the Parliament, official organizations such as S.H.I.E.L.D. were watching the live broadcast. Many organizations hiding in the corners are watching. There are also many people. Staring at the crazy Homelander on the screen, everyone's scalp tingled. This was the Vought superhero they had idolized before. This is simply the devil. However, there are still people who support Homelander. In a sealed prison, many prisoners are looking at a small screen. One of the black figures had a cruel smile on his face. He muttered to himself, "Haha, let everyone see your madness, Homelander. This person is Uncle Fried Chicken." At the moment, Homelander was slowly flying towards Sky, trying to lift her chin with his hand. Looking at Homelander, who was like a demon, Sky was so scared that tears kept flowing down. Constantly turning your head, trying to avoid the other person's dirty hands. She now had only one thought, which was to hope that Lun would come and rescue him soon. Boom! Just as Homelander's hand was about to reach Sky's face, an extremely terrifying gust of air hit Homelander, and the air made an exploding sound that tore his eardrums. Homelander was knocked flying. Then, a slender and strong figure slowly emerged. It was Lun. Chapter 72. After seeing Lun's figure, Sky felt like he saw a light that illuminated all the darkness. Tears kept flowing from my eyes. I'm sorry for making you suffer. Seeing Sky's appearance, Lun's expression became extremely cold. Homelander had completely touched his sore spot. If you have a grudge, you can just come after him. But if you attack people around you, that would involve innocent people. Such behavior is worse than that of animals. Get started. When Lun appeared on the roof, Queen Maeve and Storm immediately attacked him. Storm held a terrifying storm in her hands, and Queen Maeve also delivered her strongest attack. It can be said that their current fate was caused by Lun. If Lun hadn't killed Locomotive and the others, allowing their team to become weaker and weaker, Huey and his men wouldn't have succeeded at all. But just as they were about to attack Lun, a terrifying sword energy suddenly shot out from Lun's palm. The two of them stopped in their tracks under the gazes of disbelief. Then the two people's skin, which was harder than diamond, was cut open. A blood mark appeared on the neck, and then the head fell to the ground. 2 pillars of blood spurted out. They were also involved in kidnapping Sky, not to mention trying to kill him. Lun will not be lenient towards such people. Ah! Accompanied by a shrill scream, Lun felt himself being hit by huge amounts of force. Then, Lun was knocked out just like Homelander just now. After being hit by such a force, his internal organs seemed to be dislocated and flew thousands of meters away. However, Lun did not dare to stop and used all his strength to steady his body. The figure suddenly disappeared from the spot. When Lun and Thor returned to the roof again, Sky had already been grabbed by Homelander's neck and was in his hand. Lun, you took everything from me, even my woman was killed by you, I will kill your woman too. Then I will kill you and roast your flesh bit by bit with my heat vision. At the moment Homelander's face was distorted to the extreme. It's like a complete explosion of the devil. After saying this, he crushed Sky's neck with his palm. No, don't. Peter felt extremely painful when he saw this scene. He didn't expect that his friend would die like this. Sky. Gwen, who was sitting at home watching all this, screamed. He didn't expect Sky to be killed like this. In addition, Tony, who was rushing here, also saw this scene in the mecha's screen. Damn it, Homelander is such a jerk. Tony wanted to just fire an ion cannon at Homelander. But now the Mark VI can only reach a maximum speed of Mach 5, and it is impossible to fly there in the first time. The people who saw this scene also closed their eyes. Judging from the girl's age, she should still be in high school, but she was brutally murdered. Now they understand Homelander's true nature better, he is not human at all. Even my heart is filled with fear. What if Homelander went crazy and killed people randomly? By then, they will not be able to escape death. Everyone prayed for the young man in their hearts, hoping that he could defeat Homelander. But the opponent was too powerful, and this young man was too young. Can you really defeat the opponent? Thinking of this, I couldn't help but feel despair. If Homelander really rules, it will be a disaster for the entire United States and even the world. What should we do? Aren't we ready to launch Kazu Take? In Parliament, a member of Parliament couldn't help but speak. But no one paid any attention to him. They all looked at the screen in horror. Inside S.H.I.E.L.D., Nick Fury blurted out FK. The fried chicken uncle in prison was smiling smugly. Ha ha ha, just do it, let them see your madness. However, as soon as he finished speaking, he attracted the attention of others in the prison. Among the prisoners, there was a big man with tattoos on his arms, who slowly turned around. Looking at the fried chicken uncle, he said gloomily, what did you just say? Immediately afterwards, there was a scream in the prison. Although these prisoners are all criminals, they also know Homelander's madness. If Homelander succeeds, everything here will be reduced to ashes. They too could not escape death. So, they also know who to support. In a dilapidated factory, a group of faces sat here, watching the TV in front. These people are none other than the Black Robe team. In addition to Huey and Butcher, there are also Starlight, Soldier Boy and others who left Vought Company. Their faces also looked very heavy. What should we do? Should we take action? Huey spoke up and asked the bearded butcher beside him. Everyone was also waiting for his answer. Obviously, he is the leader here. Let's go. Butcher said without any hesitation. Everyone left the factory as quickly as possible, taking their weapons with them. If that young man is killed, we will do everything we can, even if it means we die with him. Butcher's face was full of determination. Hearing his words, others did the same. They all knew that if this young man hadn't taken action to kill several of Walter's super ability users, there was no way they could record the information in Water Company, let alone have the opportunity to carry out subsequent operations. This completely reveals the filth and ugliness of the Water Company to the world. Huey, in particular, is on the lookout for the man who killed the locomotive. Now I finally know who the benefactor is who avenged my girlfriend. He must do his best to help the other party kill Homelander. In addition to them, the military has also dispatched armed forces. They have to stop Homelander. Otherwise, the world will fall into a catastrophe. After all, a being like Homelander can represent the scourge alone. Hell's Kitchen. Jin Bing watched all this and a cruel smile appeared on his fleshy face. Humph, Lun, this is your retribution. When Lun killed his Rhino men and others, he and Lun had already been at war to the death. He vowed to do everything he could to seek revenge on Lun. He even went so far as to find Tony's enemy, Ivan Vanko. But unexpectedly, he was the guy who killed several people from Water Company. This time, it's all my own fault. He ordered Wesley at the side, send someone to find a chance to get Lun's body. I believe Arist will be able to develop a powerful serum with his blood. It's not that he doesn't want to have a super ability, but that he wants to have a stronger super ability. If he wants a battlesuit like Rhino's, he can use it at will. But he wanted something stronger. Lun's strong physique is just right. Yes, boss. Inside the venue. Ha ha ha, Lun, you also know the pain of losing a loved one, ha ha ha. Homelander laughed crazily as he threw Sky's body off the 100-meter building. Then, his eyes gradually turned red, like a crater that was about to overflow. From the day you provoked me, you should have known how miserable your end would be. After saying that, he shot out 2 red rays, straight at Lun. Chapter 73. Everyone who saw this scene had their hearts pounding. We all know that this is one of Homelander's super abilities, heat vision. Even steel can be melted instantly. Now they all thought that Lun was also dead. Because they don't know how strong Lun is. Even Peter Parker, who often hangs around Lun, doesn't know what kind of extraordinary power the other party has. It's over, this guy is dead, hey. I still want to learn swordsmanship from him. In Sister Matt's bar in Hell's Kitchen, Deadpool looked at the screen with a nervous look on his face. Although he had just come into contact with Lun, he was also impressed by his powerful strength. But he also knew how terrifying Homelander was. Even though he has the attribute of immortality, he dare not provoke the other party. Although I also have this feeling towards Lun. The opponent was still terribly powerful, but he still felt that Lun might not be able to defeat Homelander. The Weasel was also woken up by him. Looking at Homelander releasing his heat vision, he had the same idea as Deadpool. Meanwhile, in a law firm in Hell's Kitchen, Matt Murdock and Frank were also paying attention to the TV screen. But Matt kept listening to Frank's explanation. This guy is indeed quite powerful. We are no match for him, but we are still too weak to face Homelander. Even Frank, who is cold and arrogant, had to say this. After being beaten by Lun last time, he realized the gap between himself and Lun. But he knew Homelander's horror even more. Lun is indeed very strong, but it seems that no one who can beat Homelander has been born yet. Daredevil Matt on the side remained silent, and no one knew what he was thinking. The next second, a scene that shocked everyone happened. When Homelander's hot eyes were about to touch Lun tightened the wristband in her hand without panic. Then, his eyes also glowed red. Just like that, a ray of the same red light was released from the eyes. Then, the two people's gazes collided. This time, even Homelander was shocked. I didn't expect that there are people in this world who can release thermal vision, and I didn't expect that I am not the only one. Thinking of this, my anger almost overflowed. He must kill this guy. He is unique and no one can steal his limelight. I'm going to kill you, you fake one. He roared constantly, and the temperature of his thermal vision rose to the extreme. The air around was distorted by the burning. If you are nearby, you can feel the horrible heat wave. Facing Homelander's madness, Lun also felt the strain. However, his heart was also filled with anger. Mobilizing all the energy in the body, it came out of the pupils and turned into a terrifying hot sight. The thermal vision that was about to be covered suddenly exerted force and gained the upper hand little by little. Homelander was terrified as he watched the hot gaze getting closer and closer to his eyes. Finally, when Lun's thermal vision was less than 10 centimeters away from Homelander's eyes, Homelander finally stopped fighting it and tilted his head back, letting Lun's thermal vision pierce the air behind him. Then, before Lun could withdraw his gaze, he punched out with great force. Even the shockwaves generated by Homelander's fists turned the building on the roof into ruins. Lun had been prepared for this move. The area on his chest that had been hit was already as black as ink. But, Homelander still blasted him away like a cannonball. The armament haki also knocked Homelander back when he attacked with all his strength. The terrifying shockwave directly turned the 3 upper floors into ashes. Even if Lun doesn't use armament haki, his original Kryptonian body can still withstand Homelander's attack. The reason for doing this is to gain an absolute advantage. This blow almost made Lun spit out blood. He used wood release to activate wood release cells and only then was he able to repair his internal injuries. He still underestimated Homelander's strength. He had guessed that this guy's strength was about the same as that of an ordinary Superman. But now it seems that after so many years of development, his strength has been further improved. His super strength is more than 1,000 tons. Lun reacted quickly, steadied his body in the air, and then burst out with extreme strength to chase in the opposite direction. Likewise, Homelander, wearing colored stripes, also bursts out at extreme speed. The two broke through the airflow, and a terrifying sonic boom erupted in the air. Boom! After a huge amount of noise, the terrifying power of the two collided with each other. The power was so terrifying that it even made the air sound as if it was overwhelmed. Both of them flew backwards like cannonballs. Lun smashed directly into a mountain, creating a deep pit with a diameter of several dozen meters. Homelander fell into the distant sea, causing a terrifying wave. Almost all the people watching the live broadcast opened their mouths in surprise. When Lun also released his heat vision, they were already shocked beyond words. Now, Lun directly burst out with a super strength that is no weaker than Homelander. They couldn't see clearly the collision between the two. This speed is beyond the reach of the naked eye. However, the shocking sound of the gas explosion and the scene caused by the two were captured by a drone. This is simply a fight between two gods. Many people in New York are hiding in basements, subways, and other places. They didn't dare to come out at all, afraid of being implicated. They now finally realized that in the face of such power, ordinary people like them were no different from ants. Parliament Hall. Many congressmen couldn't help swallowing their saliva. They have the same mentality as those citizens. Such power is simply a disaster. Inside S.H.I.E.L.D., Nick Fury also opened his one eye wide. Lun, how many secrets do you have? S.H.I.E.L.D. was the first to know about Lun killing those people from Vought Company. He didn't know why Lun was so confident and dared to fight Homelander, the strongest man on Earth today. Now, I finally understand. Fortunately, they did not force Lun to join the Avengers Alliance plan before. Did not leave a bad impression on the other party. Even if there were any, there weren't many left after that transaction. He now felt only relief. Hell's Kitchen. Little Jian was so scared that he almost sat on the ground. FK. This guy is a disaster. If he doesn't die this time, I will make sure to apologize to him. Although it is a bit exaggerated, Deadpool's heart is really beating wildly. Every time he thought Lun was strong enough, but the opponent hit his heart again and again. This feeling is more exciting than riding a roller coaster. Who is he? The man in black robe and others who were driving towards the battlefield were all horrified when they saw the pictures on their phones. Suddenly I feel like I was a bit redundant in the past. Chapter 74. Phil Coulson and others have the same idea. It's horrible, they are a disaster. When Black Widow saw this earth-shattering battle, her beautiful, expressive eyes almost popped out of her head. I think we are a little redundant. Hawkeye Barton felt a little scared when he thought about how he had treated Lun badly before. Fortunately, the other party ignored a small fry like me at that time, otherwise, I would not know how I died. Such power is even beyond their cognition. Don't think so. Although our weapons are immature, they are also powered by the Tesseract. The power of one attack even exceeds that of a missile. Phil Coulson is still very confident about the weapons in the hands of his men. This is the power of the Tesseract, after all. Can we really deal with them? Black Widow couldn't help but mutter to herself. Lun and Homelander's thermal vision is probably extremely terrifying. If they can resist this, what use are these weapons of mine? In prison. The criminals who saw this scene couldn't help but exclaim. Lun, kill that lunatic, he is a scum. Yes, this guy is simply a demon. We cannot have such evil people in our world. For a moment, all the criminals in the prison were in an uproar. In a corner of a cell, Uncle Fried Chicken was lying there covered in blood. More air out, less air in. At the last moment of his life, he also realized how terrible Lun was. Inside the Fisk building, Jin Bing looked at the screen, his face twitching constantly. He knew Lun was strong, but he didn't expect him to be so strong. It even exceeded his understanding of strength. Originally he was one of the world's top close combat experts. Every day you have to fight with 10 of the world's top fighting masters. Each battle is resolved in 20 seconds. Those opponents were either dead or disabled. But, he is only human power after all. The two people in the picture are simply gods. At this moment, he finally realized that he regretted it. I feel that even if Arist and Yvonne create terrifying robots, they may not be able to defeat each other. It's really horrible. But then I thought about how I had already offended Lun, and there was no medicine for regret in the world. He could only grit his teeth and crush the cigar in his hand. However, his body began to tremble slightly. Lun broke free from the pit. It soared into the air, and the rocks were shaken by the recoil force, causing large pieces to slide down. His eyes were already filled with murderous intent. Almost condensed into substance. At this time, Homelander also rushed out from the bottom of the sea, causing a wave of spray. The two people's eyes intertwined in the air. Lun, I admit that I underestimated you. Now that we have nothing to worry about, let's fight to the death. Let's see who is the fake one. Homelander's face was extremely hideous and looked extremely scary. In response, Lun's eyes slightly widened, and then he said, I think you are too confident in your own strength. I have lost my attachment, what do you mean Sky? As Lun said this, Homelander and all the people watching the live broadcast through the drone looked at him in amazement. Take off a wristband from your hand. The moment the wristband was taken off, there was a puff sound. After a puff of smoke, a slender figure emerged. It was Sky. What? This time, everyone was shocked. Hasn't Homelander broken this girl's neck and thrown her downstairs from a building 100 meters high? How come he is still alive, and it seems like he has transformed from a wrist guard? What on earth is going on here? Now, everyone felt that their brain CPU was overburned. I can't figure out what's going on. Even Homelander on the opposite side was stunned with a ferocious expression. Haha, you scum will never understand what's going on in your life. In response, Sky's pretty face was full of smiles. Then he looked at Lun with eyes full of love. Oh my god, am I dazzled? That girl is not dead. What on earth is going on? Could it be that this girl has been resurrected? Impossible, didn't you see she turned into a wrist guard? Oh my god, is there really such a magical ability in the world? In addition to the shock to the crowd, the big shots were also so. In S.H.I.E.L.D., Nick Fury touched his nose. After making sure he felt something, he opened his single eye again. Similarly, Black Widow and others, the military, and the people in black robes all looked at each other. Such a magical scene once again shocked their eyes. Deadpool, Daredevil, and others also didn't know how to express their shock. Gwen, who was originally lying in her mother's arms at home crying, suddenly jumped up. Great, I knew Lun would save Sky. On the top of the building, Spider-Man Peter, wearing a combat suit, looked at the screen on the wall and also breathed a sigh of relief. Lun, this guy is so worrying. He really wanted to go up and help, but after seeing the two fighting, he could only watch from afar. His dynamic vision was much better than others, at least he could see the two people fighting. However, after a long time, his eyes couldn't take it anymore. Obviously, such power has exceeded the scope of cognition. At this time, the golden and red armor flew over. Lun handed Sky to the other party and said, Tony, Sky is in your hands. Don't worry. Although Tony also had doubts, he suppressed his curiosity. Because this is not the right occasion to talk about this. Then, Tony picked up Sky in the air and flew away with her in his arms. I'm going to kill you. Homelander has gone completely crazy. In addition to his endless anger towards Lun, he also felt that his intelligence was being crushed. All this made him, who had been admired by everyone since childhood, feel greatly insulted. All this is because of people like Lun. Only their blood can wash away all this. Tony got scared when he saw Homelander chasing him. Hurry and speed up. But Homelander's super flight is several times faster than Lee's Mark armor, and he can't dodge it at all. He was about to punch Mark's armor. This punch was packed with terrifying power. Even though he hadn't hit the target yet, the gust of wind from his fist almost blew his Mark armor off in the air. Fortunately, he protected Sky tightly under him and did not let him get hurt. Even so, Sky was shocked. Just as the fist was about to hit Mark Mecha, a cold voice came. Don't forget who your opponent is. Lun instantly appeared next to Tony's Mark and then punched Homelander. Boom. The combined power of the two once again created a terrifying sonic boom. Then, the two figures disappeared. To be precise, it was so fast that the camera couldn't capture it. Tony quickly took the opportunity to take Sky away. In a battle like this, even the slightest aftermath could kill them. It's better to leave early. Chapter 75. Boom boom boom. The battle between the two was more than terrifying. Every collision caused waves of air to erupt. The air was blown apart by the terrifying energy of the two people. The waves below were shaken up by the aftermath of the shock, creating waves. The fish living in shallow water were directly shattered. The two fought from the west coast to the Atlantic Ocean, and then to the mountains of New York. The tops of several mountain peaks were shattered in an instant. Everyone couldn't help but feel their scalp tingling. Now if someone told them that these two were gods from the divine realm, they would all believe it. How powerful are they? At the moment, the military, SHIELD agents, the Black Robes, and even Wesley who was hiding in the dark had all arrived at the scene. They finally feel that they are redundant. The battle between Lun and Homelander would come to New York from time to time. They didn't even see the figure clearly. The buildings have completely collapsed. They almost died unjustly. Now, no one dared to come out and hid in the nearby subway. At least, they can calm the panicked masses. This is the end of the world. 370 Everyone watching the live broadcast found it difficult to see the two fighting figures. But through the live broadcast, one can see the damage caused by the two. Many people lamented that this is the end of the world. This is also true for some famous Marvel characters. They all think that the battle between the two could even cause the end of the world. Such power is no less destructive than the mushroom missile. Now, everyone knew how ridiculous it was for them to think that Lun would lose. Lun is the real tonic in the world. Boom. After another collision, both of them flew backwards. The two buildings were reduced to ruins again. However, I didn't stay too long. Squeak. Two red heat rays collided with each other from a distance of several hundred meters. All the surrounding buildings were burnt down. The air was distorted and shape-shifting due to the burning, making an overwhelming sound. At this moment, it seemed as if the sky was shaking. You die. Homelander's eyes were red, his face was distorted, and he exploded his strength to the extreme. At the moment, his flag-patterned cape was in tatters and his body was covered with scars. Blood also flowed from the corners of his mouth. The anger was almost bursting out. At a certain moment, or from the beginning of the fight with Lun, he actually felt his heart trembling. This was an emotion he had never experienced before. This is terror, this is fear. At this moment, the unspeakable shame overwhelmed his sanity. He didn't want to have such emotions that only weak people would have, he wanted to destroy the guy in front of him. If I don't kill him, then this person will always be a shadow in my heart. It becomes my own lingering nightmare. You are only able to bark without any ability. Compared to Homelander's miserable appearance, Lun is obviously in much better condition. Although his clothes were worn out, he didn't have many wounds on his body. Apparently, during the battle, the Devil Star blood in the body burned faster. Physical fitness has also improved rapidly. This is the real Kryptonian body. The original Kryptonian body. A scumbag like you shouldn't have been there. If it weren't for you, the hundreds of people on the plane wouldn't have died. When you fight the robbers, you don't think about the safety of others. After destroying the plane, you threaten the passengers. Let them fend for themselves. If I hadn't survived by chance, I would have died like those passengers. Homelander, calling you a scumbag is an insult to the scumbag. Today I will defend myself and the innocent passengers. Eradicate you, ast worse than a pig or a dog. Lun also returned his warm gaze, and at this moment, he also vented his inner depression. It was this guy who made me feel depressed for so long. Homelander wants to wash away everything with his blood, and he also wants to use Homelander's blood to wash away his own grievances. Feb, the two thermal rays collided with each other. At this moment, all the truth was completely revealed to the world. So that's how it is. It turns out that my husband's death was caused by that scum Homelander. This guy deserves to die. Woohoo! My son was only 23 years old and didn't even have a girlfriend. Because of this demon, he lost his young life. Kill this guy, kill this monster. At this moment, the families of the deceased passengers began to curse Homelander while shedding painful tears. The authorities finally learned the truth about the plane crash 2 months ago. It turns out, it was all because of Homelander. It can be said that the robbers were just a fuse, and Homelander was the real culprit who caused the destruction of the plane. Everyone looked at Homelander in the picture angrily. Now, everyone knows how disgusting and insensitive the other party is. But that's not all. After hearing Lun's words, Homelander still spoke with a ferocious look. I am a god on earth. Those ants are not worth saving. I am afraid of dirtying my body. You are so rubbish that it's hard to describe. Lun didn't want to continue talking to this kind of person, and while madly absorbing the radiation energy, while frantically practicing the Yi Jin Jing to absorb energy from heaven and earth. His entire body was like a perpetual motion machine, and a terrifying heat beam as thick as a bucket suddenly exploded. Homelander looks very small in front of such thermal vision. Finally, it hit Homelander's eye socket. Suddenly, an extremely miserable scream was heard, and Homelander's entire eye was completely destroyed. If he hadn't grabbed it quickly, it would have burned through his hard head. Without his eyes, Homelander immediately lost all desire to fight. Using super hearing and super senses, you can move without too much influence even without eyes. After avoiding Lun's hot sight, he left at the fastest speed. The ground that Lun hit turned directly into a bottomless ravine. It's like the whole city was torn apart. Then he retracted his thermal vision, and Lun also suddenly exploded. The horrific aftermath once again swept towards the surrounding buildings, turning them into ashes. At the moment, after the battle with Homelander, Lun's development of the original star-crossing body has reached a new level. Homelander was already badly injured, and his strength was limited to that. Soon he was caught up by Lun. Then, when it didn't react. A heavy punch. There seemed to be a violent explosion in the air. Homelander was knocked to the ground with a scream. With this punch, Lun was directly covered with armament haki. A punch delivered in this way will increase the power of the fist. Homelander's body slammed into a mountain. Then, in front of countless people's horrified gazes, Lun clasped his hands together. A figure like a mountain slowly emerged. Then, a few characters came out of his mouth slowly. Senjutsu. Would release. True 1000 hands. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel so you are notified of future uploads. You can find the next parts in the playlist visible on the screen or on my channel. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.